I posted this and I posted in the other stream.
All right, folks. Welcome to Heretic Channel. Sorry about that. I fucked everything up. I know, but soon I'll have it figured out, and we'll be able to look back on this and laugh.
You'll cry.
Oh, I expected it to happen. I'm terrible with tech, so I am.
I didn't know I was dealing with Sweets 2.0.
Yeah, you're not fucking wrong. So we might as well just jump straight into news. We wasted a half hour, so
yeah, we did.
We wasted a half fucking hour. So let's just jump into the news. Okay, first bit of news here is there's a new Predator game coming from Sony, called Predator Hunting Grounds, and it's made by the same team that made Friday the 13th, the game.
Oh boy,
and it's gonna work the exact same way.
Where when some people play Marines and other people play the Predator.
Yeah, it's gonna be asymmetrical co-op or asymmetrical, whatever it's called.
And people said Dead by Daylight wouldn't last when Friday the 13th came out.
So here comes now. There's a lot of people that don't like Friday the 13th. They say it's kind of buggy, but I heard it's only 4 guys that started with that game.
Yep, so it is.
But now they've got money from Disney.
Why do they have money from Disney? Shouldn't they get it from Sony?
Because Predator owns 20th Century Fox owns Predator.
Oh, I thought you said it was from Sony. Is what this game
is. It is from Sony. It's a PS4 only game for now.
What a fucking bunch of shit!
But Disney's pumping money into it, so we'll see what happens.
Are people here now? By the way, I didn't know if anyone.
I don't know.
You don't have the chat open?
Nope, nobody's here. Nobody's here because you didn't post the link.
I did.
They're probably just tired of it. They're done. They're like, I'm done.
The link you gave me is the link to the dead one.
No, it shouldn't be.
It was.
The one that I just posted?
Yeah.
Okay, so this what? No, it's not. It's not dead anymore. It's live now.
It doesn't show it live for me again. Just one waiting.
Oh my fucking god!
Well, no, I see it on this thing, but that's a different link, Jenova. Jesus.
Just go get the other link. Do you see it?
Yeah, the one you sent over.
Okay, well, can you go to our YouTube channel and grab the link for me, please? All right, I got like 6 fucking things open. I need you to do something.
There are people here that are regular audiences here.
Can you go over? Can you go over there, please?
Hawk's already posted Cog's Discord. We're all right. I'll edit in the other places.
Look, I clicked on the link that it gave me before I came here. So if it gave me a dead link, that's YouTube's fault, not mine.
That's YouTube's fault, not my fault.
Send me the link to the regular chat. Send me to the link where we're live.
I could. Okay, I'll send.
I can't see the fucking chat room.
So
it's not a good day.
This is the one it sent me. Was
one
this
of those
one?
Days.
This is the one. This is the one it sent me.
I don't need the one that it sent. I need the one that works.
No. This is the one that will work. The one
DM me the live one.
I just did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
All right, I just got it.
Calm down.
It's one of those days, okay?
Yeah, I just heard you on the other end.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, so anyway, so that's happening by Sony. I think everyone's having a good time.
Okay. Perfect. I told you Trash Fire.
I didn't know this was called Trash Tuesday. I thought this was Monday.
Yeah, well, today it's fucking trash.
Anyway, so like you said, the Sony thing's happening, made by the same 4 guys that made the Friday the 13th thing.
Right, so it's just a Predator game that's coming out. I don't know when it's dropping. Right now it's a PS4 exclusive, but who knows what'll happen with that.
Mm-hmm.
So my next bit of news is if anybody's ever seen Deathgasm, which is a pretty good movie about...
Oh, wait, that's on the list of Joe Bob movies I've yet to watch.
Pretty good film. It's about 2 kids in high school that find this book that gives that...
Summon Satan.
It summons Satan through a heavy metal song. So they play that song and it summons what's called the Blind One. It's pretty gross, gory, good time. I think it's either from Australia or New Zealand, I think.
So countries that will never have a sequel to it then.
Well, this one is it's on the roster for Grimfest production company, which is called Grimfest Films.
Uh-huh.
I think Grimfest is based in the UK, but they've got Deathgasm Part 2 on their roster, so they're working on a sequel to that.
But Jenova, if it's in New Zealand, it's never going to get made because that country hates everyone now. They've already blocked the stream because I mentioned their names.
Of course. I think it's Australia, though. I don't think it's New Zealand.
I mean, that's not really much better.
No, you're right. So on to my next bit of news, which is fucking terrible news because I'm a really big fan of The Invisible Man.
Oh, here we go.
New plot details released for Lee Winnell's Invisible Man remake.
Mm-hmm.
The film follows Cecilia, who receives the news of her abusive ex-boyfriend's suicide. She begins to rebuild her life for the better. However, her sense of reality is put into question when she begins to suspect her deceased lover, if her deceased lover is not actually dead. So an abusive guy turns invisible. They said it's going to work like a ghost story.
Yeah.
Which is fucking bullshit. Justice for Claude. Claude Rains' Invisible Man is the best Invisible Man ever, and you don't need anything else.
That was really the big thing, too, with Invisible Man, was it's not the fact the guy is abusive, it's just he goes insane from the experiment.
Yeah, and he kills a lot of people in that movie when he derails the train.
Yeah.
He fucks shit up over there. So I'm already pissed. Blumhouse is doing a remake of The Invisible Man. I don't know how they got the rights to it. It's because that's a because Universal fell so flat with the dark universe or whatever the fuck it's called, that they were like, oh, just sell out the fucking rights for other people to do this because we can't. We're terrible at this now.
Mm-hmm.
The people who set the standard for that are now terrible.
Yeah.
And my last bit of news is that there are rumors coming out that there could be an Event Horizon 2 in the works. Some sort of mysterious Instagram account popped up, and it started posting vague images and videos using clips from Event Horizon. And the whole thing seems to be about some company that actually travels into space and does something. Now, it could just be an ARG.
Yeah.
But a lot of the clips that they're using, it looks like... I don't know. It looks like it's from a production team, you know? So that's just a rumor going around. So that's really all that there is.
All right.
For the news. 20 years too late? Yeah, I agree. So we might as well just jump right into our werewolf movies. We've wasted enough time. I've wasted enough time tonight with my bullshit. So let's just jump right into the biggest debate: The Howling versus American Werewolf in London.
Mm-hmm.
Gene, which one of these do you prefer?
The Howling.
And why do you like The Howling better? Talk to me about The Howling and like how the whole Joe Dante thing and the whole Rick Baker, John Landis thing.
Yeah, I'll talk about that. So the whole thing I like, at least about The Howling, is I think it has a better story.
Right.
Than American Werewolf in London. It's a very dark, atmospheric take on the werewolf thing, because it's a woman who's traumatized, basically goes away with her husband, and things just, fall into place from there, where it gets really all creepy and disturbing and everything else.
Right.
If we want to talk about the technicals of this, the whole thing, why I do not like John Landis, and I never will like John Landis, is the fact that his whole thing is that he's been trying to make a werewolf movie since... for 18 years, apparently, was what he said. Since he was 18 years old. He
wrote the script for American Werewolf in London when he was 18, and it was such a shit script, nobody wanted to fund it.
No, nobody wanted to fund it.
Which is why Rick Baker ends up over at The Howling.
Yes.
Because John Landis can't get funding for his film.
And he's just not even really doing the stuff for The Howling.
He's a
consultant. He's a supervising consultant. He's providing ideas because the person doing the actual stuff for The Howling is his student.
Now, before we go any further, I'm going to say that most of the movies we're judging, how we're going to judge our werewolf movies that we speak about tonight, are two of the main categories are the transformation of the werewolf and the actual werewolf design itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are kind of terrible in one of those aspects, it could hurt your case a lot tonight.
Yeah, and I will mention other movies that don't have any werewolf transformations, but are werewolf movies.
Yeah, and are kind of better. But okay, so continue.
So yeah, that's the whole thing, is that a lot of the production of what was happening for The Howling was basically Rick Baker consulting his student. I forget the special effects guy off the top of my head's name.
Which
the
guy?
The guy who did the same stuff for The Thing.
Rob Bottin.
Rob Bottin, that's right. He is actually Rick Baker's student. He studied under Rick Baker. And the funny thing, too, is that Rick Baker is also a student of the guy who did the original Gremlins as well.
True. Bottin, he did The Thing and The Howling when he was only 20.
Yep.
So he was
very talented.
He's very talented, prodigal son sort of thing. Now, when you look at it, The Howling got its funding because it was a better script, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Joe Dante was, I would say he was around the same type of name as John Landis at that time. They're both kind of around the same sort of status.
Yeah. But, especially since Joe came from more humble roots than Landis did too. Landis had a lot of money and everything else, and he was from...
Joe was able to get his funding.
Yeah.
Joe was able, and Rick couldn't wait around. So he went to go do a werewolf movie, and he had been thinking about how to do a werewolf movie for so long because him and John, him and Landis were friends and had always tried to talk about it. So The Howling has two of the three biggest names in the industry at the time. It's got Baker and Bottin. If you had Tom Savini in there, it would be tough. But then John Landis kind of throws a fit. He's able to finally get funding for his film, and he throws a fit knowing that Rick's working on Howling. So
Joe Dante,
So basically, Rick eventually leaves
because Joe stomped his feet. Not Joe. Landis fucking stomped his feet.
And so he eventually went to work on. American Werewolf London and took a lot of the stuff that they were using from The Howling over there.
Yes.
Which was created by his student, Rob Bottin.
Yes. It's because Rick was short-handed at the time, I think, and he knew Bottin wouldn't mind, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure between the special effects guys, it's not a personal thing. No. But I think John Landis turned it into a personal thing.
Oh, yeah, he 100% did.
And when you hear Rick talk about it, Rick sort of avoids the whole dispute that happened before it, and he kind of just talks about the effects. But when you hear him talk about the effects compared to when you hear Joe Dante talk about the effects and how they're made, it's very clear that Rob Bottin is the guy who invented what would later be used over on the set of An American Werewolf in London, because they were using the same thing in The Howling. An American Werewolf in London is my favorite werewolf movie, says Captain Weeb. Well, Weeb. And I told Gene before we went live and into that shit show for about a half hour that watching both of these films, I shrugged my shoulders, and in my den of werewolf movies, I can do without either of these movies.
I think, though, even if you say that, I think The Howling has the more significance historically.
I came up with some things I don't like about both movies, and I came up with some things that I like about that I like about both movies. And from what I came up with, what I like is the fact that it puts Howling ahead of An American Werewolf in London for me. Are the things that I came up with. Now we're talking transformation and werewolf, right?
Yes.
The American Werewolf in London, its transformation is iconic because it happens in full light. And it's because it's Rick Baker doing it. He's got more experience than Bottin.
Yes.
So he's able to do a cleaner, fresher job on everything. And I'm sure Bottin did those effects in the middle of what was going on when Rick Baker had to leave and stop doing those effects. So Bottin basically had to clean it up for himself. That's not to say he did a bad job, because if you look at the effects on The Thing, if you look at The Howling and The Thing, you can tell he grew from his experience on The Howling when he went to go do the thing.
You know, one of my most memorable scenes I always remember from The Howling is how he basically comes walking in as like a skeleton at a certain point. You remember that?
Yes. And eventually there's a skeleton in American Werewolf in London.
Yes.
Now, when you go the Howling route, you get a darker movie.
Yes, it's very dark.
You get a darker movie with darker themes. The color scheme is a lot darker. And when you go with American Werewolf, you get
Animal House.
You get Animal House with a werewolf. Which is one of the reasons this is when I was watching American Werewolf in London, I was like, wait a second, this is like Animal House, but with a werewolf. There's a lot of it's just the way it runs. I know John Landis directed Animal House, so there's just a lot of the same stuff you see in there. Mm-hmm. And I like the werewolf transformation in American Werewolf in London better than I like the transformation in Howling, but only by a little bit. Okay. Yeah. But I like the werewolf in Howling better than I like the wolf in American.
Yeah, because it's just a
American
wolf.
Werewolf. Right. And this might be controversial to chat and people in their own opinions about werewolf movies. But if your guy transforms into a four-legged wolf, I don't really count that as a werewolf. I don't care what lore says or anything like. When I think of a werewolf, I think of bipedal. I think of something on two
bipedal
legs.
Wolf man.
I think of a wolf man, not just a wolf or a big wolf. And Rick Baker agrees with me.
Yeah, he said that too. Because didn't he hate the fact it was a fucking wolf?
And when I was watching it yesterday, I was not impressed with the werewolf that they have, the four-legged wolf that they have in American Werewolf in London. I'm not impressed with it. You can tell it's a puppet, and it shakes like one. It wiggles back and forth like one. You know, when they try to make it look like it's tearing stuff apart, you can see all that shit. It's not that it's either the way it's edited or it's just the work on that puppet.
Yeah.
Now, my favorite parts of the special effects of American Werewolf in London are all the effects on his friend as his friend starts to rot and do all those things. And that's my favorite part of the movie is his friend talking to him.
Yeah, because it's basically that's the quote unquote, oh, look how original this idea that you see the victims. But I'm pretty sure even in like, you know, the older werewolf movies too, they'd still be haunted in the dreams by the people they attacked and killed.
Yes, well, they're cursed.
Yes, because it's a curse. Werewolfism is a curse. It's not like it's a a blessing or anything else. Just like vampirism, technically itself is a curse.
And I'll tell you, the transformation scene in American Werewolf in London it starts off terrible. When he's just sitting there reading his book and he goes, Jesus Christ, and it's very over the top and it's not a very I just can't sympathize with him. But as that scene progresses. It gets better and better as a scene.
Yeah.
And there are some scenes in it that are kind of wacky during the transfer. Like when he flips over on his back and then they show you the full shot and you can see his like legs and they look all weird. That can kind of be taken as humor because it's kind of a comedy movie as well.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Jenova confirmed furry. So I think American Werewolf in London, it could have been done better, but I think John Landis was so worried about making sure his transformation was done well that he completely sort of forgot
what a fucking werewolf movie is supposed to be.
Like what a werewolf movie is supposed to be. I like how he did the whole thing about being haunted by his victims. I even like the one scene where he starts to see other victims besides his friend. I think his friend's name is Jack.
Yep.
So he's not seeing Jack, he's seeing another guy, and he says something to the other guy, and the other guy goes, "Look, I'm not your friend."
Yeah, because you just killed me.
I'm Jack. Jack's got a thing for you because you guys are friends, but me, you need to kill yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing. They both kind of trade things on off because when you switch over to the Howling transformation, the whole thing that happens before that, you know, because he's got Dee Wallace trapped in the room.
Yes.
And it's the guy from the very beginning of the film.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the stalker or whatever.
Right. I didn't go over American Werewolf in London because I think more people remember what happens in there. But for The Howling, it starts off with Dee Wallace going undercover with some guy who's showing her some porn in a porn theater that the cops are trying to catch, which I don't know why, but he starts to change into a werewolf, but you don't see any of that.
No.
The cops shoot him and they think, I guess he's supposed to be dead. He's not, but then she's traumatized by the event, so she has to go off to some sort of new age hippie camp to try and remember what's going on, what she saw that night.
It's with her husband, and they go out to the woods. They try to retreat, get away from it. Yeah.
So then her husband is a werewolf, right? He becomes a werewolf, right?
I think so.
Right, because he has the sex scene with the other werewolf. With the woman, remember?
Oh yeah, it's
the werewolf woman that he meets while they're out there. I don't know how he becomes a werewolf. I think he gets scratched or something.
STDs, werewolves.
Yeah, well, he becomes a werewolf, and then there's a werewolf sex scene, which is not as good as the werewolf sex scene in another Wolf Cop 2. Because there's an actual werewolf sex scene in that movie.
That movie's so bad.
It is bad. Wolf Cop 1 is better.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, he gets turned, says Cindy. So then they fuck there, and then the whole time they're like putting her in hypnosis or whatever to try and get her to remember what she saw. But eventually we get to the part where the transformation happens, right?
Yes.
And she's basically cornered in a room over at this camp area, and the guy that got shot in the head in the beginning, he comes walking in.
Oh yeah.
And it's a dark room. You can see some things, but you can tell he's got good makeup effects on. His face is sort of distorted. He's not in full Wolfman mode yet. Which I like when they do those sort of things.
Yeah. Especially with the eyes. The eyes, is probably first to the whole thing.
Yes. So, and then he begins his transformation. Now you get to see, so this is one of the longest transformation scenes in like werewolf history. It's a good 5 minutes.
Oh, by the way, someone posted on COG's Discord that there's a missing persons out for somebody.
Okay. So what?
I'm just saying, they're like, this person is missing.
Who is it?
I don't know. Just some dude.
No.
I just thought I would mention that to the chat, just in case you wanted to share that anywhere.
Right, Cindy. They take their time with his transformation.
Yeah, they do.
But the thing I think where the transformation starts to get the heat is when it starts to look like it's bubbling, and the face is pushing out on multiple areas. It looks like it's bubbling from the inside out. Yeah. I did not like that.
I did actually like that myself.
I get what they're trying to do with it. I just, when it starts to do that, you can tell it's fake and it doesn't look real. I would have much preferred if it would have pushed everything out instead of bubbling out like it does. But I think when they do it on the chest area, it's a lot better.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact where his eyes look different and everything else too. I know that's not part of the bubbling, but when that happens, when his eyes and gets the fangs and everything else, and it starts to push out after that. Right,
correct. And then eventually, you do sort of get a full body transformation, not as detailed as you get in American Werewolf. Because American Werewolf, they do like close-ups of the hair growing, and they show you the feet and they show you the hands elongating, and then they do the whole, like, they slowly pan out more and more till it's the body.
Yeah.
And then eventually they got the whole snout. That's really what's iconic for that whole movie.
Yeah.
But you don't even get the hands elongating in The Howling. You kind of just get the hands moving at a weird sort of way to show that he's got claws.
Yeah. It's something I've seen in another movie too, where the hands don't elongate. It's more the claws come out of the skin and the skin starts to rip and other things like that.
Well, I saw one of the worst werewolf transformations I've ever seen before. I'm actually gonna share the screen because you don't even need to hear it. You just need to see it.
All right, I'm ready.
Let me just open some things up here real quick.
Not OBS. No, keep it away.
OBS opening up now. Thank you, OBS. So, like I said, so then when it comes to the werewolf, the actual werewolf design, I think it's a lot better when it comes to the design in The Howling compared to the design in American Werewolf in London. And that is because, like I said, a werewolf should be bipedal. It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be a doggo.
It shouldn't be a doggo. You're not wrong. I'm not. The Company of Wolves does that.
Yes, that's also a film I watched today.
Why?
I wanted to see what this werewolf movie was about.
The transformation is okay.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's just transforming into a wolf dog is fucking awful.
Do you like the fact that in the folklore of that it's like the guy has to have a unibrow to be a werewolf?
I guess. Yeah. And that has Murder, She Wrote in it as well.
Yes.
What's her name? Angela Lansbury.
Yep. Yeah, that also is it has David Warner in it. He's the dad.
Good for him.
I know. I'm just saying he was like always in shit like that. He was in one of a Lovecraft adaptation because he was strapped for cash and like.
Jenova, what does your wolf costume look like? Porky, do you remember the Spotlight episode on Red Letter Media of Lichen Colony? It looks like that. Can you see this?
Yes, I can see it.
All right.
It's gonna be bad.
Oh, it's gonna be real bad.
That's a dog. 1987 is when this. That is a dog.
Yep, it's coming. Here we go. He's turning into a werewolf, bro.
That's still just a dog.
Yep. Well, he's turning into a were-dog, bro. There we go.
What
Lasers.
The fuck?
Laser. Boom.
What the fuck? What was this movie? What country was this movie made in?
Thailand.
I can tell. Later.
I don't know what movie this is, but I want to see it.
He disappears.
He's off to a fucking convention.
He went back to heaven. Werewolf heaven.
Cindy says, I think the werewolf in The Howling is more gritty. I would agree. Yeah. Which is why that's one of the points I give over to Howling, because it is a lot more gritty. It's that the whole scene, it's not just the transformation that's part of that scene. No. where he's got her trapped in that room.
Yeah.
It's the way he talks to her.
Yeah, he's creepy.
He says like, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind. And he reaches into the bullet hole and pulls out the bullet.
Yep.
He's really he's pretty badass in that whole thing. And then we continue on and we find out that everybody at the camp is a werewolf.
Yep.
And I like the design of the werewolf in Halloween. I think I said this a lot better.
You said Halloween.
The Howling. Halloween. I don't know why I'm getting those two mixed up. I like that a lot better simply because, like I said, it's bipedal, but it actually looks like a werewolf. See, the problem is, like, at some point, sometimes you get a werewolf that looks more like a cat or a bunny rabbit if it's too low budget.
Yeah.
I think eventually the Howling, like the franchise, starts to make that route where they're really bad.
I think, the third one's called like Night of the Marsupial or something.
Yeah, that one takes place in Australia. It's actually sort of like the original producer's way to keep the franchise, because Joe Dante came in because The Howling was originally a book.
Yeah.
And these two guys were adapting it, and one of the guys was they had a producer, a writer, and a director. Yep. Well, the company took the director and the writer off of the movie, but they kept the producer.
Yep.
And then they brought on Joe Dante and John Sayles and some other people to adapt it, and then that's the movie you got now. And Joe Dante says, he goes, I never met the producer, I don't know, but he still owns the rights to The Howling, and he's responsible for all of them. Like, it's like Howling 8 now or something like that.
Yeah, it's gotten that big. The one that's actually probably closest to the original idea is actually The Howling 4, I think, which is called Reborn.
Okay.
I just wanted to point that out there.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Like every other one besides one is available on YouTube to watch for free. Go ahead, knock yourselves out, chat, if you want to. Some are really bad.
I think I've seen like 5. I think I've seen maybe 5 of them. I don't know if I've seen all of them. So, but what I came away from when I watched The Howling and when I watched An American Werewolf on London, American Werewolf on London.
He's on the ship. Get him.
Is that both of them? I shrugged my shoulders when I was done with them.
I know what you mean, but I still think The Howling is the better film.
I think The Howling is the better film.
I wouldn't call it even the best werewolf movie, but I definitely say it's probably got the most gritty tone to it.
No, there are better werewolf movies.
Yeah, that's what I said.
But American Werewolf is not one of them.
No, it is not. It is a worse werewolf
movie. That's just how I feel. I don't know. Maybe it's because I don't really like John Landis movies that much. Like, I like Animal House.
Jenova, why don't you tell the fact about the chat of the whole effect, too, that Richard Baker did for John Landis and what John said for it?
Rick Baker used the Change-O effect.
Yep. From The Howling.
Right. But that effect was created on the set of The Howling by Rob Bottin.
Yes. So
the Change-O effects that they're using over in American Werewolf in London for that transformation was already, The Howling came out first, and it actually shows you, it uses the same thing. It uses Change-O effects on it.
Yes.
That Rob Bottin created. And like I said, between like Baker and Savini and Bottin, it's not a personal thing amongst them. No. They're just going where the money is.
No, what I meant was that the fact of how long did it take him to make that effect?
Oh, I don't remember.
You said a month.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. Yes. So you're talking about Rick Baker on American Werewolf in London, where he made the Change-O effect for the face.
Yes.
Which you can actually still see the original is crumbled away because of the way they made the actual makeup for it and the elasticity. But the base of it, the way it works, is still around, and they've got multiple of them now.
Yes.
So Rick Baker was telling this story. He said, it took me a month to make this head be able to do the way you see it in the movie, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, and I brought it on set, and John films it, and 10 seconds later, he's done. And he said, that's it, we got it, we're done. And Rick goes, John, I worked months on this fucking thing, and you're only going to film it for 10 seconds? He goes, yep, we're done, we got it. Because apparently it's only like 15 minutes of this stuff that took months to make. Mm-hmm. It's like it was filmed for 15 minutes, and most of that is on the cutting room floor. And you really only get to see the stuff for the transformation now. Because the puppet for the werewolf is in no way groundbreaking. Mm-mm. It's things that they've always used. It's the transformation that gets the groundbreaking sort of title for it, and that's because it's shown in full light. Yep. That's the only thing that people say for it to be groundbreaking, is that it's shown in full light. Mm-hmm. But you can see the exact same transformation happening over in The Howling, which came out like 6 months earlier. Yes. And was in production before An American Werewolf on London. Yes. In London. I keep saying on London.
It's on Jack London now.
So The Howling is really the first to do it. Now, here's what happened, is because Rick Baker sort of did the same idea, but he did it better because he had more experience. Mm-hmm. They created, I think it was the Academy Awards or whatever, they created a makeup effects category just to give Rick Baker an award for American Werewolf in London. And I believe that's why it gets the credit it does, because Rick Baker won the award.
Actually, you want to know what's really funny, though? Even though he did win the award, what was nominated right under it? The Howling.
Yes. And Bottin should have won because he was the first one to do it. But technically, Rick Baker did it better. That's all I got to say.
That's such to be like a kick to the nuts a little bit, though, too. Like, you're, you're the student. You thought you finally surpassed your master, but the master basically just takes all your shit and goes like,
Yeah.
"Nah, I'm using it."
Yeah. And I'm sure, like I said, it's not personal between them. So I'm sure Rick Baker was like, "These are really good, man. I'm going to take these over to American Werewolf." And Botine was like, "Yeah, man, go ahead, do whatever you." I'm sure, But technically, the Howling did everything first. The only thing the Howling didn't do is its transformation scene is not in broad daylight. It's not
it shouldn't be in broad daylight because it's
not
scarier
fully
that way.
lit. It's actually shadowed and it does a lot of stuff, which you're supposed to do. But you are getting the same transformation in the Howling before you get, and the Howling is darker, grittier. The kills are pretty damn good. But when it comes to an American Werewolf in London, I felt myself a lot more bored with American Werewolf in London at times.
Yeah.
There are some, there's some Nazi werewolves coming in and shit like that. And people say like he throws those things in there because then when Jack finally shows up, you're supposed to be like, well, is he really a werewolf or is he crazy? But including the first time I watched the movie, I never got that. I knew that he was aware, like he wasn't crazy.
Yeah, he got attacked. He got fully attacked. You see it happen. You see the scars on him. That's not something crazy. People just think like, oh no, I'm horribly scarred. No, he's scarred. You can see it several times throughout the movie. So
yes,
yeah, good one, Landis. Oh yeah, he's crazy now. No, he's not. You trying to fool? That's why no one picked up your fucking story because you suck at writing.
Yes. It took him forever to get a budget for it, and when he finally did, and it feels like the only reason he actually got the budget was because he got so desperate because he found out Rick was over on the Howling.
Yeah,
and Rick was going to take his ideas that he had been coming up with for the last couple of years and put them into the Howling.
Yep.
And it's almost as though John Landis sabotaged the Howling.
Yeah,
he sabotaged 100%
he did.
Yep. And then Joe Dante might have said, like, that kind of wasn't cool, man. And John Landis was like, all right, well, I'm doing the Twilight Zone next. Do you want to be in that? You want to do a sequence for that? And then John Landis basically killed people.
Yeah. So basically about it, he did kill people.
R.I.P. Vic Morrow and 2 Asian kids.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's this weird sort of battle of battle of werewolf movies, where
I'll definitely stick by
these two are the king. These two are the placeholders
for what people consider the werewolf movie.
Right, but there are better werewolf movies.
Yeah, I believe so too. Even though I really do like Joe Dante's The Howling for what it is.
Werewolf or vampire, what would you rather be? A werewolf, because I ain't gay.
Oh, speaking of vampires, Jenova, I remembered what actually helped bring down Wes Craven's career.
What was that?
A vampire in Brooklyn.
Did he do a vampire in Brooklyn? Yes, he did. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to watch that movie.
That was him. It was because of the fuck that and Wes Craven's New Nightmares, what is considered his low points.
Well, My Soul to Take is quite a low point. We can talk about the other werewolf movie that I watched called Cursed.
I wonder who that's by.
It's by Wes Craven.
Oh, you don't say.
And it's written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote the Scream movies. So it's just Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson teaming up for their 5th movie, and
they didn't want to make another Scream movie, so
they did make another Scream movie. This time, instead of Ghostface, it's just werewolves because it's the same fucking setup. As it should be called Scream 4.
Your daughter is a werewolf.
Yes, because it's from 2005, but it looks 1995 Scream as fuck. Oh, so they didn't even it's like they ignored the last 10 years of the culture, and they really didn't. They just made there's a lot more black in it, black hair. Even the final girl, I guess you could say, Christina Ricci, she looks exactly like Sydney from Scream. Just the same look and everything. I think Kevin Williamson's got a thing for short hair brunettes.
He might.
So Cursed is about a werewolf.
Smash Mouth band.
It opens with a Smash Mouth cover band, which I don't know why you would want to cover Smash Mouth, but I guess. And they're doing a cover of a Meteor song. I don't know if anybody listens to the Meteors, but they made a song called Little Red Riding Hood. And this band is like, they're doing a cover of it, and it's a Soy Boy cover of this song, which is normally really great when the Meteors sing it. But they fuck up. From the very beginning, they fucked it up, right? Shannon Elizabeth is in it, if that tells you anything about the time period of this movie. And some R&B singer chick named Maya. I don't know if anybody remembers her.
Told me the werewolf's gonna roll me. The moon is rising upon the stage.
See, they would have been better off singing that song. So then Shannon Elizabeth gets into a car accident because Jesse Eisenberg and Christina Ricci, their brother and sister, and they're driving along a road, and they find Shannon Elizabeth and her car's flipped upside down. And while they're helping her, a werewolf pulls her out of the car and drags all three of them through the woods.
So, I know this is off topic of what, talking over and everything else, but what would you rate this one compared to The Howling and American Werewolf in London? Is it like
The Howling? The Howling gets like a 7.5 from me.
Mm-hmm. I'd give it an 8 myself, but yeah.
And American Werewolf in London gets a 7, I would say.
I'd give it a 6 or a 5.
Okay, that I can see that. They're both meh for me, although like they are competent films.
Yeah,
like,
I will. I mean, they are shot competently.
Even if it's a movie I don't like or I don't care too much about, I can recognize where it's competently done. It's just not my taste. But I mean, they're definitely 7s, 7.5s. Now, The Cursed is probably a 4, maybe a 5. The Cursed is really fucking bad. It turns into a whole like whodunit murder mystery thing like Scream, except now we're trying to figure out who the werewolves are. Even though in the beginning of the movie, after when they get away from the werewolf, they look on their arms and they're both like they've got wounds. So it turns for a split second it turns into a thing of one of them is bit and one of them got cut by glass, right? Mm-hmm. But then we find out that they're both been bit. And they both have the curse on their hands like they do in the original Wolfman.
Yes.
They've got that, and it's sort of like a pentagram or whatever it's called. Mm-hmm. Whatever the Satanists are doing.
Just like in a certain other.
And now there's all these right, and there's all these murders that are happening in the area, and you're trying to figure out which one of them is the one murdering people.
Spoiler alert, it was Ghostface all.
Spoiler alert, it's neither of them murdering people. And there's like 4 plus them, there's like 4 or 5 werewolves all together. And also Ron Swanson is in this movie playing Sargon of Akkad.
Nick Offerman.
Yeah.
That's right, you mentioned that to me.
I wonder if
he does look like Sargon in that film. Yeah.
I wonder if I can pull up the snapshot I took.
You probably could. Yeah. Hello, Moppy. Thank you for sitting in my lap.
So
I am drinking a beer as
there's
I am
like
talking.
4 werewolves in this movie, but there's only 4 kills.
Okay.
And 2 of them are werewolves.
That's pretty bad.
It's pretty fucking bad. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen the GIF of the werewolf breaking the window and then giving the middle finger, but that's this movie.
Is that how that movie feels to you too? Is like it's giving you the middle finger?
Yeah, that's basically how I took it. I was a little offended.
Yeah, don't fucking watch this movie, Jenova.
And there are some homages in it, you know.
Mhm.
There are a couple things here or there.
Does Wes Craven make a cameo in it?
Wes Craven does not make a cameo in it. Let me see here. Yeah, there's a couple. Derek Mears plays the werewolf, and he is the Friday the 13th guy.
Mhm.
Or he plays Jason in the Friday the 13th remake.
Mhm.
It's got the Wolfman homage because of the curse on the hand, and then there's like gypsies in it that like tell fortunes and shit like that.
I mean, of course, if it's going to be an homage to Wolfman, you got to have the gypsy.
There's an American Werewolf in London homage too, which I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's in there. And it's like at this time, like everybody's wearing Abercrombie and Finch.
Abercrombie and Fitch.
Everybody's got that shit going.
Why do you gotta keep sitting on my lap? What do you want? Don't left on my computer, Moppy.
That's what Moppy's gonna do.
I guess.
You can't tell her what to do. You don't own her.
I mean, I technically do. She's my cat.
She's your cat.
Yes. So yeah, everyone's wearing Abercrombie and Fitch. So does it still seem like it's the '90s, even though it's the 2000s?
It does. It's 2005.
But it seems like it's 1995.
It was a big time in my life because that's the year I graduated high school. So I'm just imagining it's like 2005, and then when I look back, I'm like, we're not really that different from the '90s Scream movies. Nothing is really different. The music is a tad different, but the whole thing feels '90s as fuck because I think during this period of time, Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson were stuck in the '90s. I don't think they had broken out of that at all. Let me screen share this real quick.
Go right ahead. Is it the Nick Offerman thing you're in?
Yes.
That's just how he looks before he goes to Applebee's.
That's Nick Offerman playing Sargon of Akkad in Cursed. It looks just fucking like him.
It does.
I hope you can you tell on your screen?
Yes, I can tell. I mean, I've seen the picture too before, so I know, but I can see on my screen. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks just like him. This must be like his second job that he does as like a volunteer EMT or some shit.
Does he tell people they act like white niggas, mate?
That is so. He's here. The liberalists are going to stop the werewolf threat. They're going to put an end to it.
They're going to save the West from the werewolves.
They're going to save the West from the werewolf attack.
Mm.
But that is Sargon of Akkad in Cursed.
Yes.
Now, I usually tend to like Wes Craven, but this is not one of his better films. I would rather watch My Soul to Take than watch Cursed. So what other werewolf movies did you watch? Do you want me to just give you the end, spoil the end of Cursed for you?
Go ahead and spoil Cursed for me.
All right, we're going to spoil Cursed. So if you don't want to hear spoilers,
and then I'll get into the movies I watched too after you're done. I mean, we probably will. There's probably a couple we watched to get we watched, so you can talk about those too. But go ahead.
At the end of Cursed, you find out that the whole thing is about this party, and like Christina Ricci is some kind of PR person, and her Jesse Eisenberg is her little brother, and then one of the guys from Dawson's Creek is like the main love interest, and then he's got a publicist, and you find out that the publicist, who's played by Judy Greer, is a werewolf.
Well, that was complicated.
And she's been killing people, and when she gives the finger before they do that, they're talking about how fat and ugly she is, how her makeup sucks, and so she turns into a werewolf. And she gives them the finger because they dare to make fun of her appearance. And then they kill Judy Greer. Right?
Okay.
And then they go home.
Wow.
But guess what? Dawson's Creek, he's also a werewolf. And he's also been killing people.
Okay.
So he turns into a werewolf, and Christina Ricci's got to fight him.
Does she fight him with fisticuffs or what?
They both turn into werewolves and fight each other. That's Cursed.
Wow, that sounds retarded.
It's terrible. There's no effort put into it at all. I don't know what Kevin Williamson was thinking. He should have just stuck with Scream. I know he was probably trying to go outside his his usual territory as comfort zone, but he brought his comfort zone with him in the way that the whole movie works. Like I said, it's like Scream. You're trying to figure out who the killer is. It just, instead of a slasher flick.
And there's literally two killers again, like you said, Scream always has.
Right. There's literally two killers. There's a twist ending. Didn't they know each other were werewolf? They could have. It's with the whole way it's like set up is they've got these power. It's like they can do things if the situation calls for it.
Oh, good.
But if they don't, even if the situation calls for it and you can't do it because you must move plot forward, they don't do those type of things. I would agree. Werewolves would know other werewolves, but they don't in Cursed.
That's retarded.
Yes. They just know that there's a werewolf around because, although they will, but just like in every werewolf movie, when somebody's first dealing with the curse, their senses are heightened, right? They're faster. They can smell things. They can hear things. They do the same thing in Cursed, but they can't sniff out another werewolf.
Yeah.
Yes, he infected Judy Greer when they fucked, right? But they don't mention that he's the one that got it's not until the end when he reveals that he's a werewolf that they really show you that he's a werewolf. They allude to, they say it, but they don't really say too much about him necessarily being a werewolf from what I remember. I just watched it yesterday, but I watched a lot of movies, so they're all blurring together.
Okay. Now I will talk about some movies I watched.
Boo. Let me guess, The Howling 2.
No, I didn't watch The Howling 2. It was not on Shudder, and it wasn't on anywhere else I would probably watch movies.
Okay.
So the movie I watched first we could talk about is Lycanthrope. Well, let me see if I can get this title correctly. I want to fucking say it right. It's a Japanese werewolf movie with Sonny Chiba in it. Or Sonny Chiba? How you say it? Fucking say his name. Sonny Chiba, yes. So the whole plot of this movie is that people are dying from a curse that this woman's putting on them, where she comes in the form of a tiger and slashes people to death. That's a grudge. She's killing people with a grudge.
Okay.
And Sonny Chiba is basically called Akira Igumi, and you don't know if he's like a reporter or a detective or what his whole deal is, but he's trying to figure out all about this. So this is made by Toei Studios, not Toho Studios, Toei Studios. And they are a production company team, that is so cheap and so lazy that the tiger is green screened when it appears.
Neil Breen.
Yeah, it's green screen when it appears for the effects, because all the effects basically went to the tiger slashing people to death.
Right.
And Sonny Chiba, even though he is like werewolf, he's mentioned as, because Inugumi means basically evil dog spirit or evil wolf spirit.
Right.
He is technically a werewolf.
Inuyasha. Go ahead.
So yeah, he has powers and everything during the cycles of the moon. He can smell people differently. He has a scent to him, all this other stuff. And it's all about how they're people are trying to get him to it's really like a drama mixed in with an action movie, mixed in with not even a horror movie. It's just that's like a background that he is a werewolf.
Okay.
And the whole thing, the effects basically went to when he gets his guts ripped open in this medical center because these other people try to get him and all this other stuff. It's the funny thing is this is a very popular, it was a very popular manga series, which actually did show that. And when they brought the creator there, he sat for 15 minutes in there and then left. No one could find him. And then he phoned the guys the next day saying, "I'm going to sue you for using my work this way and putting your shitty product out." Because they had not asked him for it. And then when he actually saw it, it's yeah, I'm going to sue you. I don't think anything came from it. I think they sold out for a $5,000 sum or something.
Okay.
But he basically got his protected rights not to have anyone make his shit without his permission again. So
what happens when... So now you said there's no werewolf transformation, right?
No.
And the guy just kind of gets powers from the moon?
Yes. He technically is a werewolf because the clan is supposed to be wolves. In the actual thing, they are wolves. They are like werewolves.
They just don't look like werewolves.
It's because the studio was so cheap they didn't have the werewolf effects.
Right.
At all.
But they still like, I know what you mean. They still do werewolf things.
Yes. Like he has enhanced strength during like the full cycle of the moon. He has enhanced reflexes, all this other stuff. A guy gets infused with his blood and basically becomes half werewolf, half human, but it ends up killing him because it's not supposed to like blend correctly.
Do they have sharp teeth?
No.
No, so nothing is done to them at all.
Not really, no.
Okay.
It's just implied like heavily that they have regenerative powers too. Like he gets cut up, his guts get taken out, falling out, and they like sew back up into him and move back up into him once that lunar cycle goes.
Okay. Because it kind of reminds me of another movie called Whir, which I think is French. And
Yeah,
it's about a guy that he gets powers from the moon, but he doesn't actually turn into a werewolf.
Yeah, this was because the whole thing with Japan, they never saw the Wolfman movies because the
Right.
Wolfman movies were released during the time of World War II.
Right. So they didn't get them till like what, the 70s?
Yes, when this movie was released, is when they first started coming over. But there were people that they were in Japanese folklore. The Inugami thing is the evil dog, evil protective spirit is an actual thing in Japanese folklore because it's all about ghosts and demons and shit like that with Japanese folklore.
Right. Whir is German. Thank you, Rock.
Yes, Whir is German. Which is funny that they sucked at making a werewolf movie when that's where most of them actually come from is Germany. But I digress.
Porky says, I've got an idea for a movie, Weresquatch.
Weresquatch. Oh, God.
So the person transforms into a Sasquatch.
I guess.
Which is actually a short story from Chuck Palahniuk in Haunted.
Yes.
So somebody beat you to it already, Porky.
So yeah, the whole
It's
thing.
just not a movie yet.
He basically actually does confront the woman too, because she's like a drug smack addict. She was gang raped too. That's also in the story. She was gang raped.
She probably deserved it. Go ahead.
She probably deserved it, yeah, because she fell in love with a politician's son, and he wanted his politician to marry like a financial mogul instead.
Right.
And so that's why she got gang raped. And so one of the dudes had syphilis, so she has syphilis now too, along with being addicted to smack, which is heroin.
Right.
So yeah, that happens to her.
Sounds like a lovely movie.
You know what's really funny though, at least what Joe Bob brought up is like, don't they have penicillin in Japan during this time? Because that's how you treat syphilis.
You would think so, but maybe not.
I guess. So yeah, she ends up getting killed by this woman named after Akira's mother, who he fucked in a cave for whatever reason, and suckles on her titties.
Okay. Her werewolf titties?
She's not a werewolf, no.
Oh. So what would you give the movie?
It was a really different film than I was expecting, because I expected, it's called a werewolf film, but it's not really a werewolf film.
Did you have fun watching it?
It was a fun sit. It was interesting to watch all the action scenes, especially with Sonny Chiba, just trying to like think out how the fuck is this thing going to end?
Right.
And basically, how it ends is that his love interest shoots the tiger woman when she's about to kill him, and that means her curse goes onto her when she's shooting him, so she dies. And then he kills the two dudes that were head of this research facility about using this woman's grudge to kill people. Okay. So that's what that's why they capture her at a certain point too. Besides the gang that gang leaders who she kills, that's what the dude was trying to investigate the entire time too. Like to figure out like who's pulling the strings for this, who's the one who actually did everything. You find out it's like a huge politician that's like about to become president.
Does he turn into a werewolf?
No one turns into a werewolf in this entire film.
But it's a werewolf movie.
Yes.
No, it's not.
I mean, it is. The guy's still technically a wolf clan. That's what the whole thing is.
Oh, Wolf Clan. Who gives a shit? No werewolf movie. I'm
just telling you what it is, Jenova.
What other wolf movie did you watch? Werewolf movie.
Last
Phases.
Last Phases, excuse me. Yes. That was good. I really liked that movie a lot.
Yeah, it's not bad for a modern werewolf movie.
No.
It's got the guy from Stakeland in it.
Yep, who acts? It's a mix between Gran Torino and the actual Wolfman. That's what I really like about it.
Yeah, and the wolf is not bad.
Nope, the wolf effect is pretty cool. I loved when he was ripping out of his skin and becoming the werewolf.
You're right, and the effects are pretty good, as in like the kills and stuff like that.
Yep, they're really good effects for the kills, and I kind of find it funny that it's that's why it's called late phases, is because it's like the end of people's lives, and it's in a fucking retirement home, and the werewolf definitely does look older because it is played by an older dude.
Go through the movie a little bit because I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Sure. So basically, this guy goes in this retirement home called Crescent Hills.
Right.
He's a blind veteran from Vietnam. The reason he got blind was a flash, like a grenade went off in his sight, so that's what started to make him go blind.
Yep.
It was a gradual thing. He was brought there with his son, and the whole thing is like he's actually really, really good with his skills besides sight, so he can smell things, he hears things really well. He's got a dog with him called Shadow. He calls the dog Shadow. It's a German Shepherd. It's a seeing eye dog. But he doesn't really need it that much. He just needs it to point the general direction of where he's going. And he can go on without Shadow, too. As we see. Unfortunately, Shadow is one of the first victims in the movie.
Oh, no.
Shadow gets killed by the werewolf.
Okay.
Along with his neighbor, who is this, like, one of the first people to act really nice to him. Everybody else acts pretend nice to him.
Right.
Like, they think, like, oh, welcome to the neighborhood. All this is like, oh, yeah, did you bake cookies? Oh, yes, I did. I can't have sugar. Thanks.
Yeah.
Like, really, he knows that these people are, like, cheap perfume cheap perfume smell woman, where he said the other woman who he actually likes, who's his neighbor, he says she has really nice perfume and she smells beautiful, is what he says. He said something like that. Where the others,
get away from me, blind man.
She's actually, like I said, she's really nice to him. The whole thing. She gets murdered too. She gets killed by the werewolf.
Of course.
And then the whole thing happens where he's trying to figure out who the werewolf is because he knows somebody is the werewolf because there's a blood trail that happened after he has his dog killed.
Right.
And he has a mailman point him the way and everything else, and he finds it, and he finds it's at one of the bitches' houses. That's where the blood trail leads to. She finds about his husband. Her husband is an iron lung. So that's rough, and he says, I'm sorry to hear that and everything else. He actually means it, but the lady's still very bitchy.
Of course.
And then he hears about like this. So
the guy in the iron lung is the werewolf.
No, he's not.
Oh, okay. I thought that was going to be
I know
the twist.
That's how it leads it. He's like, that's what he asks her. He's like, does he ever get up? Do you ever see him get up and anything else? Like, as much as you see Mr. Kurtzy or whatever his name is.
Because there is a movie like that, an old movie called The Man in the Iron Lung.
I know it's not. He's not the werewolf.
Okay.
So then it basically goes to the. He goes on this thing because he finds out about like this church that everyone in this community goes to.
Right.
And he's like sitting next to the father and his assistant. His assistant's like wearing a bowler tie. He's balding. He's a big member of their community too. Like he's the outreach guy. He's the one that schedules all the stuff for all the people for this.
Right.
He noticed the father smells heavily of cigarettes.
Like I do.
Because he's a smoker, and he like says, "Oh, you can't get that away," and it's all the stuff. He and the father have different views. He's not a very religious man. He says like it's just a bunch of shit most of the time than anything else.
Right. Yeah.
But he just goes to listen. He's like, and the sermon's almost about him, about sacrifice and everything else. He's like, I hope you don't mind that I use the whole thing of sacrifice to talk about you. And he has some banter back and forth with the father and everything else. And he almost thinks that the father is the werewolf too, but he's not as well.
Now, do you get to see a transformation?
Yes, you do. Very good one.
How's that play out? It's not. Is there any CGI in there?
No, it's all practical effects.
Okay. So how's that?
It's the practical effects made by the same dude that did the practical effects for the Predator.
How does the transformation play out?
The transformation plays out. You see the wounds healing first in the guy who is the werewolf.
Right.
And then it's like slowly the nails come out of his hand. Like when the full moon comes up, then he starts ripping his flesh off and everything else.
Okay.
So it's like his like splitting up and it's like slimy fur underneath and all the other stuff, and then he rips through his own head to reveal the wolf head. as you do in werewolf movies.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, he has like the fang teeth and everything else. So, spoiler alert, the guy who actually is the killer is the guy who's put out all the flyers and everything. That's why the blood was there, because he had, put the flyer out beforehand and the blood was still covering him. He has all Shadow's markings on him from when Shadow basically attacked the shit out of him, because Shadow does attack the werewolf before it dies.
And from what I remember, the werewolf actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, the werewolf.
It's got a weird
it's not just one either. He basically realizes that this guy found out about him because he got the silver bullets made to kill him and everything else. Because this guy is a gun expert too. I forgot to mention that. He's a Vietnam vet and a gun expert.
Right. Well, the werewolves the snout isn't as long and protruded as like a normal werewolf face is.
Yeah, it's more the like scrunched in. They look a little bit bat-like in some aspects, but they have very pointed ears.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, they look very bat-like in the face.
Yes,
but
the eyes are definitely creepy. It's big, round eyes like you expect from an animal.
Yeah, but I think it works as a werewolf all the same.
Yes.
And I was actually impressed because I remember I've only seen this movie once and it was a while ago, but I remember being very impressed with the werewolf and the transformation. And I was pleasantly surprised by the whole movie because I was actually engaged with it.
Yeah, it's a very engaging story. Like him trying to figure out.
Right.
Everything.
Sometimes you get a movie where you can go and off and like do other things and you've got multiple tabs open and stuff like that. And you're keeping up just fine with the movie. But with that movie, like I felt the need to sort of sit and watch and pay close attention to what was going on.
What's really funny is the way he discovers it is the other guy, because he's riding in the car with him and he's like saying the fact about the father is like he thinks he's half a phony man for not really believing in everything he says, or he says that like even like still mean to keep saying like all the time. I hate when people do that. But
I do that all the time.
I know.
Like all the time. Go ahead.
He realizes that it's him because when he starts making fun of the father, because the father told him about how he used to be a really horrible person. And he just had to basically cage it and starve it. And the only thing that, he does that is still bad is smoke. That's the only vice he couldn't give up. He did horrible things to like everybody.
Well, smoking makes you cool, so.
It makes him dead in the movie.
That's fine.
And once that happens, that guy starts wheezing because that guy is also a smoker.
Oh, okay. So smoking plays a big part in this.
Yeah, but he has asthma too. So he's smoking and he has asthma.
Smokes and he has asthma?
He has asthma from smoking because he still does it.
Oh my God. Okay.
But he doesn't show when he does it, and that's the whole thing with
in their frail human bodies.
And that's the big thing when he tries to kill our main character. He goes in the daytime, like dressed almost in a cultish black robe, so no one can recognize him.
Right.
And it's the assistant dude, like I said. He's the one who does it and everything else, and he's killing animals. That's what really is like. You see all these missing flyers for cats and dogs and everything else throughout this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then he's like burning the remains in a smoker.
Right. You see that in the beginning of Wolf Cop too.
Yeah, you do.
You see a lot of flyers for missing animals, which is what's happening around here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of flyers up for missing animals, missing pets, dogs, cats, shit like that. And there's a skinwalker in my woods for sure.
I'm sure there is. So that's the whole thing. He dresses up in full Vietnam era stuff to confront them. And he's like set up all the traps and everything else because he figured there was going to be more than one, and that is what the guy starts doing. He starts going to like all the neighbors he trusts and then just bites down into them. He partially transforms and bites into them to give them the curse.
Right, like you do.
Yeah, like you do.
Because in a way, werewolf lycanthropy is sort of spread like zombie.
Yes, it's a bit like that because it's scratches and bites are what you usually call it.
Right, scratches and bites. Like that's how it is in Wolfman, right? He gets a bite right on the shoulder or something.
Yes,
or on the arm.
Yeah, he gets mauled by a wolf in the woods, and that wolf was actually a wolf man.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing with full lycanthropy. Like, again, with the fucking lore, Jenova, I know you hate it, But there's two. There's the.
It's not that I hate it. It's just sometimes it doesn't matter. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes it doesn't matter how accurate it is to lore or whatever. If it's done
bipedal wolf man.
If it's done poorly, then it's done poorly.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he does that. The funny thing too is the fact that he's trying to seek salvation in a sense as well, because he does really respect the father and everything else. And he's like, have you been using your prayer beads? Have you been doing this? Like, that shit doesn't work worth a crap. He says that to him. He's like, because you never believed in it, and I don't believe in it. And I want to let you know that because I love you, I'm going to kill you first, and I'm going to make sure you're actually like fully ripped to pieces, so you'd come back otherwise. So I don't do it out of hate. I do it out of love.
Right.
So it's a really interesting thing because this dude doesn't seem like he's a horrible person, but he also does seem like he's a bit of an asshole for really doing a lot of this shit. He's conflicted with the whole thing that he's like killing people, but he's also like, it has to be appeased. You can't do this.
Well, because he's been living with it for so long, he's probably tried to stop it at some point.
Well, what he says is that there was another werewolf that he chased in the woods and killed, but the curse, like when you kill werewolves,
right?
Unless you, of course, especially if you get bit, if you kill the werewolf, the curse will go to you. That's something that you always have to consider with werewolves, unless you.
Since when?
I think he got bit when he was.
I've always known you only get the curse if you get bit or scratched.
And that probably did happen to him. I mean, it's a werewolf; they're stronger than humans, so.
We've been throwing Lon Chaney in there a little bit, Porky, because we've been talking about things that show homages to parts here and there in the werewolf movies we're discussing that show homages to.
Yeah, and in Last Cases too, he also thinks that the pastor thinks that he's actually like flailing himself open, like he says, "Don't do that medieval shit." He's like, "That's not what I'm doing."
Right.
Your prayer beads won't work, and it's then the whole thing. He sees like the wounds healing and all this other stuff, but he does have to say you have to like. He's basically doing a lot of shit that would hurt him, but it doesn't really hurt him so much because again, he's a werewolf.
Right.
So he just heals when the fucking moon comes up, even though that doesn't last long because he'll just rip out of his skin.
Well, as we know from Monster Squad,
Wolfman's got nards.
Wolfman's got nards, but you can blow a Wolfman up with a grenade and it doesn't matter.
Yep.
He will come back.
Unless you use silver bullets.
You got to use silver bullets. It's the only way.
And the whole thing when he's in the gun shop, by the way, our main character, when he's in the gun shop, he's like, did anyone else request that? And that's how he figures out the guys who actually was the fucking werewolf, because that's what he used to kill the other one.
Right.
But he also is like, what? He's like, he says the whole thing of, oh, you get requests for this often? He's like, yeah, I keep saying, like, I hate that so much. Because I can't think of another adjective word. I don't want to be Valley Girl.
I do it more than you. Just keep going. You're fine. Trust me, I'm the worst speaker on this show. Trust me. Because you're doing just fine. Go ahead.
The thing about it is, the gunsmith doesn't think much of it when he's making it, because he thinks, oh, you're just a Lone Ranger fan, because the Lone Ranger used silver bullets too, and the whole thing with the Lone Ranger using silver bullets was supposed to be the idea that it purifies evil.
Yeah. Which is
technically that's why they have it in a lot of the stuff too, because it's a common.
They've got it in vampire stuff too.
Yes.
Like Blade.
Yeah, crosses, knives, all that whole thing, that silver is a pure metal, even though it's not really a metal.
But crosses don't work on vampires unless you have faith.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have faith in anything, it doesn't work.
Nope.
Porky says Mecha Weresquatch.
Mecha Weresquatch.
That'd be a tough thing to deal with. I think there might be a movie that's like that, actually. It's like Mecha Sasquatch, maybe?
Maybe.
Cyborg Sasquatch, something like that.
In the far future, werewolves will be played by David Stay. So, I know he's listening to us right now. Hey, David.
Of course, yes. So I watched a movie that I actually think is better. It's a better werewolf movie than The Howling or American Werewolf in London.
Okay.
It's called Bad Moon.
Oh yeah, I was watching bits of that and I didn't get through it. So go ahead, tell me all about it.
So,
By the way, I'd like to mention the fact this is a Canadian horror movie.
It is Canadian, yes. It's got Merrill Hemingway,
Mm-hmm.
who I believe is one of Ernest Hemingway's children.
I believe so, yeah.
So Bad Moon basically starts out, they're in like some sort of Asian jungle somewhere.
Yeah. It's like almost a Vietnamese jungle, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Or
and
Indonesia.
the dude is there. He starts having sex with a girl. You get to see one of her boobs. But then a werewolf attacks, kills a guy, and then like he comes right through the fucking tent where they're fucking, pulls the chick out, claws her face up, and then holds her up in the air.
Some would call that a werewolf cock block.
Yeah, he definitely got cock blocked.
Nah, bruh.
And he picks the girl up and he smacks her into the ground, like with such force. Her body, like it's ragdoll physics. She just goes flying. One of the best werewolves I think that I've seen. Some really good practical effects and some really good kills in there. Like there's the whole scene where the werewolf kills the like power line guy, and he bites him in the head, but he bites right through the guy's helmet. It's like nothing. You can see just how powerful the werewolf actually is. But it's this guy. So that guy, he fights off the werewolf. He shoots it, but he gets
the shotgun.
Right, the guy in the beginning in the jungle who's fucking the girl. So he survives.
Yeah, but he's scratched.
But now he's scratched, and he's the werewolf now. But he comes back to the United States or Canada. I can't remember if it's supposed to be in the United States.
It's supposed to be the Pacific Northwest is where it's supposed to be.
So he comes back, but
that means Seattle or Washington.
His sister is Merrill Hemingway. Yeah, I think it is Seattle because now I remember a cop mentioning Seattle. So they're supposed to be in Seattle. It looks like Seattle because it's gray and rainy the entire fucking movie. So Merrill Hemingway is his sister, and she has a kid who is played by the kid who was Dennis the Menace in the 90s Dennis the Menace movie, if anybody remembers that film. And then they have a dog named Thor, who is the fucking hero of the story. Thor's
By the way,
best movie dog I've ever seen.
If you remember looking at the credits of this film, it says based on a story called Thor. So the dog is named after the story.
Okay. Well, that's exactly, he is the hero of the story is Thor. Because what ends up happening is her brother comes back and he's sort of like living in his Airstream over by the lake. So she goes to see him, but there's all these murders happening around him, which he is obviously causing. So there's a big investigation going on over there. So she goes, you need to park your Airstream in the back and you can live out of my fridge. So he's basically living on her property now. And Thor is not happy about it. Thor goes over a couple times and pisses on the Airstream because he knows that this guy is a werewolf, basically.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. In a lot of werewolf movies.
Oh yes, that canines can recognize other
dogs
canines.
Know. It makes me wonder why dogs bark at me sometimes. Oh no.
Huck says I could have been Dennis the Menace if I went to the audition in Dallas. Oh, Huck, you should have. You could have also got a role in the Bad Moon movie because that's where they got that kid from.
Yep.
So what I like about this movie is the transformation not that great because when they actually do show you the full transformation, they put this weird CGI effect on it that makes it look like water drops or like he's like, you know how in The Howling it sort of bubbles?
Yeah.
Well, it's done like that, but with a weird CGI look to it. Now they only do that for a couple seconds, so it's okay because the werewolf itself is
pretty
great.
Good.
I think it's one of the best werewolves ever on screen. And all the kills that come with it are great. And then before he transforms, he's in that state like the guy is in The Howling, where he's like he's mid werewolf transformation, where his face is just sort of distorted.
That creepy distortion where it's also the eyes too.
The eyes are changing, like his teeth are sort of like longer. There's a lot more hair. And he's really fucking he does a really good job with that. The actor who does that. Now, when he's trying to be like emotional, he's terrible. But anything outside of that, because what ends up happening is another thing that I like that they do in this film is the toll that being a werewolf sort of takes on you as a human. Because in a lot of movies, they won't show you how, like, he goes from being a really, like, sort of nice guy to being a very menacing guy. He's not shaving
more aggressive
anymore. Well, his I can see it in his eyes and his gaze. He's always got this, like, sort of silent rage, I guess you could say. It always looks like he's plotting some sort of devious scheme, or he's just waiting to strike at any moment. And then he's always got this weird smirk on his face, so he kind of looks like a psychopath. But before you really get to see the toll that it's taking on him, he's just a nice sort of guy. He's not. He doesn't look that way. But as he changes into a werewolf more and more, every time he becomes human, he becomes a little more evil. It's almost like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sort of thing. Dogs bark at Gene because he carries bacon in his pocket.
I don't carry bacon in my pocket.
Bacon in your pocket, Gene?
No. I just have dead bodies in my pocket. I mean,
that's exactly what somebody who carries bacon in their pocket would say. And you don't want anybody to know.
Why would I carry bacon in my pocket? Why would that make sense?
So dogs will bark at you.
You just bark because I'm obviously a werewolf.
Maybe. Oh, okay. You're a werewolf now?
Werewolf.
Are you a werewolf now? Okay, we're off topic. So bad moon. So the whole time, basically, Thor, who's a German Shepherd, he basically spends most of his time trying to protect Meryl Hemingway, who is Ernest's granddaughter. Thank you, Cindy.
That makes a good point. Maybe the reason why it's always like German Shepherds and things with werewolves is because German Shepherds themselves are wolf dogs.
Yes, that could be true. I've seen people try to do it with huskies, though.
Huskies are also wolf dogs.
Right. Pocket bacon protects from Muslims.
Oh, true.
So Thor he's protecting the family, and he basically gets into a fight with the he basically gets one up on the werewolf at the end, because what happens is the guy is basically he's going on jogs to chain himself around a tree. Which they do that in What We Do in the Shadows, because What We Do in the Shadows is about vampires, but they show werewolves in there too, and how they behave. They're really funny. They say they smell like dogs, shit like that. And then, like, when they cuss, the lead werewolf is like, he goes, "Guys, what did I tell you? We're werewolves, not swearwolves."
Yeah, I remember that.
So the guy's handcuffing himself to a tree. But Meryl Hemingway goes out there and she's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I knew you were the werewolf of this whole time. I knew you were." And he goes, "Well, now that you're here, I might as well kill you." So he doesn't even get his cuffs on. Thor shows up. Thor and him fight. Thor saves the day. There's a jump scare ending and then a real ending.
Why would he kill his sister? That seems weird.
Just because he was turning into a werewolf. It's like it's having this effect on your personality as well as your body. It's like lycanthropy. Is that what it's called?
Lycanthropy.
It's like it affects your brain too. It affects your whole demeanor and personality and everything like that as well, which is another thing I like that this movie does. Because if you go to like The Howling, Dee Wallace, which, I mean, The Howling has one of the greater endings of a horror movie where Dee Wallace turns into a werewolf on television.
So people will believe her about the cult of werewolves that are around.
But she's Dee Wallace when she's not a werewolf.
Yes.
You know what I mean? She's still Dee Wallace. What's his name is still in American Werewolf in London. He's like a nice guy that's funny, and he's scared that he's turning into a werewolf, but he remains that same sort of character through the whole thing. He remains sympathetic and all that stuff. This guy goes from sympathetic to an asshole.
Yeah.
So then, so There's another part in Bad Moon where at the beginning there's this con artist that's going around pretending he's selling books, but he really just like agitates people's dogs so they'll bite him so he can sue for money.
Uh-huh.
But he gets called out on it by Meryl Hemingway because she's actually a lawyer.
Oh.
And she calls him out on it. So this guy shows up a couple days later after this incident around Act 2, and he shows up to kill their German Shepherd with a meat cleaver.
What the fuck, dude?
Right, he's gonna like decapitate the dog, but when he goes to the dog's doghouse, the dog's not there because it's the middle of the night, and who shows up behind him but the werewolf? That then proceeds to not only like shred him from the belly up to the neck, but then I believe decapitates him as well.
Decapitation.
I've been watching Brandon. So
that's just what it reminded me of.
See, Bad Moon gets an 8 for me.
Mm.
It's not like a 9, but for me, it's above The Howling, and it's above. It's a nice, simple story. It knows that it's a werewolf movie. It focuses on the werewolf movie. There's like 9 kills, although like 5 of them happen off screen, but you do get to see the bodies. But then the other 4 kills are done very well. Like the beginning kill with the girl, the kill of the con man, even when Thor is fighting the werewolf, that's all done well. And then towards the end, the jump scare ending is that they're back in the house and they've been saved, and Thor is laying down, but he looks really depressed and he looks really sad. And Meryl Hemingway just keeps saying, like,
would you say Thor is the best actor in the movie?
Thor is the best actor in the movie, and he's one of the best hero dogs of a movie. I can't really think of too many other hero dogs besides the dog from Lost Boys, which is a vampire movie. So I would say, what?
What about Lassie?
I mean, I guess we can put Lassie in there, but
I mean, Lassie's a hero dog, wouldn't you say?
Sure, I guess. I mean, Lassie does save the day. She saves Timmy from the well and everything. But do you think Lassie could save Timmy from werewolves?
Is Timmy getting himself in that much shit?
Timmy fell into a werewolf den. What's that, lass? What's that, boy?
Timmy's been ripped to shreds.
Timmy's been ripped to shreds by lycanthrope?
Lycanthropes.
We need to do vampire movies too, because I keep thinking of vampire movies now while we're talking.
Good. All right, let's move on to Wolf.
Rin Tin Tin. Well, I think I mean hero dog in the sense of
for a horror movie.
For like a horror movie, yeah, a sense of where like the dog, like, because the dog is the hero. Meryl Hemingway is not the hero of this movie. Sure. She does not act as a main character. She's almost a side character, but she's obviously the star. But Thor is the real star. You just can't put a dog's name on your top billing, or you won't get any funding. Yeah. But Thor is if Thor was a human, he would do the same things he did in the movie.
I wonder, honestly, if the perspective of the book itself is from the dog.
I mean, it could be.
I don't know. You'd have to read it.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know who would do that, but I mean, I guess I've read a short horror story that comes from the perspective of wolves before.
I mean, there's also that was an interesting thing I forgot to bring about lycanthropy.
Lycanthropy?
I mean, wolf guy, an enraged lycanthrope. The whole thing about him is that it's from the perspective of kind of a monster when all the women want to fuck him for some reason. I don't know why a lot of women want to fuck him, but they do.
What is this? What are you watching?
That thing I was talking about with Sonny Chibia.
Oh, okay. So everybody all the girls want to fuck him because he's a werewolf.
Yes, he's got that primal energy.
They kind of do that in Cursed. Like Christina Ricci, because she's a werewolf now, she becomes seductive, I guess, even though I would think that that's more of a vampire thing.
Yeah.
But I guess because she becomes more primal and is seductive, all the guys are noticing her now and they all want to fuck her.
what are you watching? Like how you're like, what the fuck, Gene?
Cursed is probably the worst movie I watched when it came to the werewolf movies.
Speaking of, since I think that kind of brings us to the end of Bad Moon, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, that's pretty much Bad Moon. Like I said, the transformation, the CGI on the transformation is terrible. The way they handle the transformation everywhere else, just fine.
Hmm.
And the werewolf itself is one of the best werewolves I've seen. It's got some of the best kills in it. It's got better kills in it than I think The Howling and American Werewolf in London.
We'll save the. I think we're gonna save the best werewolf movie for last, and I'll bring it up at the end. But do you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about Wolf Cop?
Yeah, let's talk about Wolf Cop.
That's a very fun movie to watch.
That is a fun movie to watch. And when I was watching it earlier, I noticed that because I was paying special attention to the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had
It starts at his dick.
Starts at his dick, but you don't actually get to see the full transformation itself the first time he transforms.
Nope.
You see his dick explode into a wolf dick.
Yes.
And then you see a little bit surrounding his hands and the claws that are pulling out while he's in the bathroom.
Yep.
And like he's ripping off his flesh and they're doing stuff like that. But the way it's edited is you don't really get too much.
No.
And then when he kills the 3 robbers that come into the bar,
it was only 2 robbers that came into the bar.
It's 3. He kills 2 in the bathroom and one of them gets away. Later to have his eye stabbed out by that bad guy.
Mm-hmm. And who is also
a shapeshifter who's also the sheriff. Yeah.
Yep.
So what got everybody's attention with Wolf Cop when it came out is that it's the first werewolf movie to show you the transformation of a dick.
Yep.
And it just swells up and explodes, and it's very painful to watch if you're a man.
Yep. I was just thinking when I was watching it how unrealistic that looked.
It was fucking. It was definitely, they were definitely practical effects.
Yeah.
But they were definitely done fucking well.
Yeah.
And I think it's because you're not expecting it. All of a sudden it's a shot looking upwards towards a dick that's swelling up. Yep. And it's already at like comedic size before it explodes.
Yep.
So, but you don't even get to see him as a full werewolf during that scene either. You hear the guys being killed, and then the one guy runs off. And then later when they're investigating that murder scene, all the chunks of flesh that are around it are him.
Yep.
They're his flesh, not the other guys are just torn apart.
I thought so here's the thing though. I really don't remember, but I only thought it was one guy that went in the bathroom with him, and it's just that's why it's seen as like 2 guys. They said it's lover's tiff in the bathroom.
Right, because it's 2 guys that actually go in, and the other guy eventually runs away. Because he's the one who reports.
But I thought they called it lover's tiff because it's the 2 guys, but it's only one guy because it's his flesh that's around everywhere. That's why his face is
one guy or 2 guys doesn't really matter to the story.
I mean, it doesn't. It's the fact that it's just the whole thing. It's his face.
He kills a person in the bathroom.
Yes, I know, but it's the fact that they think it's 2 guys that get killed by something else because one of them is his flesh. That's what I'm saying. Why it matters to the story.
Okay, it doesn't. It's 1 guy or 2 guys. It doesn't really matter because the 2 guys,
Jenova.
The 2 guys who get into the tiff could be both the guys who went into the bathroom, and they're so mutilated.
It's not 2 guys. It's just him and the other guy.
Okay,
that's why it's his flesh.
Story. I understand his flesh it's his flesh because Tina, who's the competent cop, she picks up his face.
Yes.
She goes, "Hey, it looks like you," and she kind of puts the face. It's kind of like a nod to Leatherface a little bit.
Yes, it is.
But the practical effects themselves are great. There's blood everywhere. Even the face looks perfect. It's almost one of those things where they're like, you could mold that face and make it, and because you don't really have to do anything with it but hold it up, you just cover it in blood and it looks perfect. It looks like somebody's face. It looks like his face. But it's not until later on that we get because he gets kidnapped from the bar, I believe. Right? And then no, it's before that. Yeah. No, it's before that because he gets kidnapped and then the cult or whatever turns him into a werewolf. Because that's how he becomes a werewolf it's because he was shapeshifters.
It was because he was investigating the woods where Terry was, remember?
Right, because and earlier Willie Higgins
was talking about the
who's the best part of the movie.
Yep, Jonathan Cherry is the actor.
Yeah, because the guy who plays Lou Garou, and I don't know if you caught it, but Lou Garou.
Yeah, I know. I know. I know what Lou Garou means. They call it Rougarou in Cajun.
Right. But Lou Garou, the guy who plays Lou Garou, is a terrible actor.
Yeah, he is.
He's so bad.
I did enjoy the fact he's just like, even though he's a terrible actor, the way he acts is just like a horrible drunk.
Yeah. But drinking gives him his power.
Yes, it does.
When he's a werewolf.
Yes.
He becomes more and more powerful because of the booze.
Yep.
Which is a great power for a werewolf to have.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, so he transforms the second time. They actually lock him in the cage at the cop station.
Yep.
They lock him in the jail there.
And he does, yes.
Yeah, and so he eventually turns. And they're just sitting there waiting for him to turn back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the phone rings. And apparently he could have gotten out of there anytime he wanted because he just moves the door open. He just forces the door open really easily. And then he goes to the phone and it's a robbery. And there's 3 little pigs robbing the store market.
Yeah, the pigs, as they call them. You see them earlier, too.
Yeah.
And they're robbing the liquor donut store.
Yes, liquor donuts.
Which are a real thing.
Right, and because they have the 2 radio guys that are constantly talking in this movie, and their sponsor is always Liquor Donuts, because it's like a small town.
Yep.
But he goes to the store, and again, you don't get to see the full transformation.
No.
When he's in the jail cell, they just kind of cut, and there he is, sort of. You get to see him pull some stuff off, but other than that,
I love the fact that it literally is how the werewolf face feature is. Besides the hair around it, it's just him in blackface.
Yeah, that's really just it. But they did a good job with it. He looks like a fucking. He looks like a fucking werewolf in a cop uniform.
Yes. And
he's here to, and then he takes his car over and makes it into the Wolfmobile.
Oh, interesting fact about that. The guy actually did do that. He actually is a really good welder. He welded all the stuff and making that. Yeah.
The guy who plays Lou Garou?
Yes.
Well, at least he's got some kind of skill.
Acting is surely not one of them.
Because acting is not one of them. He's definitely the worst actor. I don't know why they picked him. Maybe because they thought, he won't be doing too much talking because he'll be drinking or a werewolf.
Yeah, probably.
But man, when he tries to act, he is so fucking bad. So he goes to the store market and he kills 2 of the piggies when they're outside.
Yep.
And then he goes in and the third piggy basically faints.
Yep.
Because he like roars in his face.
Yeah, he's also shooting at him the entire time with a shotgun. And it does nothing to him.
But basically the town is run by shapeshifters.
Yep. For about 120 years or 200 years. Yeah,
it's like 200 years or something. And they drink the blood of werewolves on the eclipse
to expend their lifespan to 34 years.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I like that. When they do it in the second one, it's still shapeshifters, but they've got a different plan. I wish they kind of would have went with a different sort of
story. Yeah.
Yeah, like a different sort of, maybe it was vampires or aliens or something. Though the shapeshifters, when they're killed, they revert back to like their
lizard people. Yep.
Yeah, they're like lizard people, but they almost look like toads.
Yep.
So they look. They didn't put too much time and effort into that. Now in the sequel, these fucking weird things pop out of everybody's stomach, and they look really fucking weird. It's almost like aliens, but like they're way bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And they like talk and they look weird and they eat you, but then they turn into you or something.
Okay.
I have no idea what they're doing.
That film sucked.
It was really bad. I didn't have a good time watching it. It was like they're like, okay, the first Wolf Cop was a success, and then they tried way too hard to make another one.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like at the end of the first one, at the end of the second one, it says Wolf Cop will return. But I haven't heard anything about Wolf Cop 3 ever since the second one came out.
Yep. So do you like the fact that, and by like I mean hate the fact that the
Like,
second Wolf Cop used the Cobra poster as its inspiration?
yeah, it says the thing that it's the worst thing about using this is that the tagline is sequels are a disease, Wolf Cop is the cure. But the Wolf Cop sequel is not the cure to sequels being a disease. It's part of the disease. They did not cure the sequels. They did not cure that at all with this one. I like what they did with it. There's also some other fan art I've seen for it where Wolf Cop is basically Beverly Hills Cop. He's dressed like Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh boy.
So I mean, there was some good fan art and promotion for the first one. Second one flopped really hard. And I expected a little bit better production, but it almost seems like the production went down for the second one.
Possibly did.
I was expecting something a little more professional, and I did not get that at all. Although I do like the way the sequel starts.
Mhm.
It's this guy named Sidney Swallows. He's the bad guy.
Mhm.
And he just starts, it's him in a commercial, and he comes on, he goes, "You're a loser. That's just a fact." And that's how he starts his commercial. And I was laughing. I was cracking up. He's trying to sell it's called chicken milk beer.
Mhm.
And basically, if you drink the chicken milk and then a certain tone is released and you can hear it, these things pop out of your stomach and eat you.
Mhm.
It's way too over the top. The first Wolf Cop did it best. It knew what it was. It didn't really go over the top, but I think he thought
I mean, it was still over the top in a certain way.
It's over the top in a way. It's sort of an homage to trashy sort of 80s action films.
Mhm.
I
think the thing about it is though,
but it was more restrained. In this one, he felt like he had to outdo the first Wolf Cop instead of just staying on that same level. He wanted it to be bigger and more, and they just didn't. The effects for the things that come out of the stomach, not good. They're not good.
So I was gonna say maybe it's because of the fact that they basically got it through Indiegogo both times doesn't really help their movie production, since that's how they got everything.
True. Well, see, the sequel has Kevin Smith in it.
Oh God.
And he plays the mayor, and he's actually in it a couple times. It's not just a cameo. He's actually kind of a main focus of it a little bit.
That's why it went down. Kevin Smith's in this movie.
But you would think if they can get Kevin Smith, they can get...
That's where all their budget went, just to Kevin Smith.
You would think they could get some better production than that.
Apparently not.
Like, hey, Kevin, can you hook us up with some fucking, get us in the door, hook us up with a company?
Sorry, I'm just crying over Wolf Cop right now.
The first one, perfect when it came out. I enjoyed it a lot. I even bought it. But the second one, like I said, you're trying to outdo the original, and you don't have to do that with a movie like Wolf Cop. You can just he could have done the Cobra thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You could have opened up to it very much like the scene from Cobra where the guy goes to the store and starts shooting it up with a shotgun, except don't make it just a normal guy. Make it a vampire, or make it another shapeshifter or something. And then you could totally just have done sort of a parody of Cobra where you get back to the cult, and here's the real leader of a new cult, and it's like vampires that want to take everything back, or it's other werewolves or anything.
Not shapeshifters.
No, the shapeshifter thing was done in the first one. I was expecting brand new, a way different story, or do like it's called Another Wolf Cop. Mm-hmm. So you could have just picked somewhere else and done. It's like a different guy who's also a wolf cop. Like something happens to him, and he becomes a fucking.
Was this also filmed in Saskatchewan?
Probably.
Then I don't think it's going to go anywhere else.
No, probably not. And I don't expect to see a third one anytime soon.
Yep.
And even if they do, it'll be too late. And if the guy's doing anything else, you probably haven't heard about it.
So since we've made our way through Wolf Cop now, I want to bring up the fact, at least to me, that werewolves, vampires, and all the classic monsters and everything else, they're really stock characters now. They're not,
True.
They're not main things as they used to be. They used to be like this whole thing.
They used to be the go-to monsters.
Yeah, and now they're more just stock characters that anybody can use to make a film.
Right. They're sort of like, they're what you use when you don't have any ideas for an original monster.
Yes.
Or an original creature of some kind. You're like, well, I guess I could just make a werewolf movie.
Or I can make a vampire movie.
Right. Which now, like, for a long time there, the werewolves and vampires were a joke.
Yes.
Because of Twilight.
Yes.
And like, man, that's got to be the bottom of the barrel for werewolves and vampires.
I mean, I don't know about that. We got Werewolf we could talk about.
Well, yeah, but I would still say Werewolf is more werewolf of a werewolf movie than Twilight is.
Even though it's supposed to be a skinwalker and not really a werewolf.
True, but they turn into werewolves.
I know.
But really, it looks
Skinwalker, like Texas Skin Ranger.
I thought Night Watch had an interesting take on the Monsters Among Us trope. Yeah, I saw that. I think it's Night Watch, and then the sequel is Day Watch. I think that's a Russian flick. A guy like hunts vampires, and there's some other monsters in there too. Have you ever seen those, Gene?
No, I have not.
Guy hunts vampires, and the way you hunt vampires is you get drunk on blood. So you can drink blood, and you can actually get drunk, but you can actually start tracking vampires as well. And there's this like ancient thing that happened a long time ago where the evil fought the good and the good won, and like they share the day and the night, shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Superior cinema of Slavic master race, says Grant.
I knew that was going to come up.
But Werewolf, which is the Mystery Science Theater one.
Yes,
which has the Werewolf.
Joe Estevez is in
Joe
that
Estevez.
Movie. The best Martin, the best Sheen brother.
It's got Joe Estevez, some weird Santa-looking motherfucker with a shotgun. The main character, who's obviously like a meathead in real life. It's got the girl who can't pronounce werewolf.
She's like foreign.
It's got like the mean guy who takes a walk over to Kirk Douglas's house.
Isn't he the one that basically starts making everybody fucking werewolves, or is it the meathead guy? I don't remember.
Yeah, that's the guy. The older guy is the guy that starts making everybody. Yuri. His name is Yuri.
Yuri, that's right.
Yuri starts turning everybody into werewolves, some on purpose, some on accident.
I remember the whole thing was with that one dude. He beats the guy's head with a fucking the skull that he fixed.
That's the main character. He hits him with a piece of it, and because he hit him with it, he was cut by the Yamaglachi. I believe is what they call it. Yeah.
Yamaglachi.
So he's now infected. So he's gonna be a werewolf.
If I remember correctly, isn't Joe like the main, researcher, or archaeologist?
Joe Estevez?
Yeah.
No, Joe Estevez is just a laborer.
Okay.
He's just a guy digging. Yuri is the main anthropologist.
All right.
Yuri, the redhead, and then the blonde guy, who I can't remember his name in the story either. Yeah, who's rarely in it. He's always stopped. He's the one who stops Yuri from fighting, tells him to take a walk.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is Joe Estevez is a laborer with two other guys. One of them is the Native American. That guy cuts himself and gets sick.
Yeah, he does. Let me say something real quick here.
But Yuri is pissed that they stopped working, so a fight ensues, and Yuri beats them all up.
Oh, I remember. The guy's name is Richard Lionel. That is the dude's name.
Which guy?
The blonde-haired dude. He looks kind of like Joe Estevez.
He kind of looks like a snake. He's in some other stuff, though. I've seen him in other movies.
He was in Star Trek: The Next Generation as well. He's been in a lot of stuff.
True, yeah.
He's in Starsky and Hutch, T.J. Hooker, Airwolf.
Yes, he looks very much. He looks very much like Voldemort.
A bit.
He's very snake in the face.
He died in 2012.
Good. I mean, I'm glad.
Wow.
I'm glad he's getting the rest that we all deserve from life.
Such a dick.
What's your favorite part of Werewolf?
Where the actual movie itself without Mystery Science Theater. I think that's.
I mean, you can say Mystery Science Theater too. It doesn't matter.
Where they make the fucking J.D. Salinger joke about because the guy says how much he writes.
Oh, okay. I think my favorite one is Kirk Douglas's house, and then anytime they're mocking the Santa shotgun guy.
Don't you love the werewolf transformation scenes in that movie, Jenova?
Oh, they're very bad because when they show them, like, they look like they should be in Cats.
Yes.
The play for Cats.
Yes.
They don't look like werewolves, especially when they show her at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Because eventually he turns into a werewolf and she's just worried about him.
Mm-hmm.
And she's saying, like, she just wants to be with him and she doesn't care and just let her, and then boom, she turns into a werewolf too. Well, not even really a werewolf. They're cats. Let's face it.
Yes. I mean, that's the whole thing with, what did you think about the actual werewolf it shows? That's basically like a gorilla with a bat head.
Yeah, it looks terrible. There's nothing good to say about werewolf. As a werewolf?
Not even Joe Estevez? You can't say anything nice about him?
Joe Estevez is a lot better in Soul Taker, where he can be the main antagonist.
Even though he basically puts into a soul ring because he fucks up and Zadar basically puts him in it.
Oh, yeah.
No, not put me in there. It stinks.
Zadar.
Oops.
And not Werewolf, not to be confused with the late 80s television show Werewolf, which has a rad intro with a soaring guitar intro, and it's just soaring guitar through the whole fucking television show. Anytime something's happening or they need some music in some place, soaring guitar solo.
So something else I guess we should mention about werewolves too.
Right.
Because also being a stock character, they are also used not in always horror but comedy movies too, like Teen Wolf and
sure. Full Moon High.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a little bit of that. That's by
Larry
Cohen. It's very much like your Teen Wolf story. Teen Wolf does it better, though.
Yeah, I imagine it does.
It's just a guy becomes a werewolf at high school, and then he plays football. And that's basically what it is. Instead of Teen Wolf, where a guy becomes a werewolf at high school and he plays basketball.
Yes.
So that's really all that it is. I prefer Teen Wolf to Full Moon High, but I'm pretty sure Teen Wolf is just a reimagining of Full Moon High.
Probably.
I wouldn't fucking doubt it. I'm pretty sure Full Moon High came first because it was in the 70s, and I believe Teen Wolf is mid 80s.
Yep.
Maybe even late 80s.
Oh, we forgot to bring up Jenova.
Go ahead.
Silver Bullet.
Corey Haim, Gary Busey. Corey Haim's got a rocket wheelchair because he's a fucking cripple. And we know how I feel about cripples. They're not real people.
No, I thought it was their half-baked vegetables.
They're broken humans. That's what they are. If we were any other species, we would have fucking killed them at birth or exiled them off onto their own, let them fend for themselves. But no, everyone's special in the human race. Shut up.
So that means Jenova is going to be a cripple. That's the thing that happens in horror movies when someone mocks the cripple.
Oh yeah, I'll turn into Dewey and Scream 2. Somebody will stab me in the back and they'll pinch a nerve and I'll just be walking around all retarded. Trust me. Teen Wolf 2 with Jason Bateman. Never saw, never will. You should see it. It's actually not bad. I like Teen Wolf 2 as well. It's not as good as the first one, but it's not bad either.
Moppy, what are you doing?
Transforming into a weremop.
No, not my closet, Moppy. Don't go in there.
That's where mops belong, in the closet.
Come here, Moppy. Stop it. Just wants attention for whatever reason.
Cripples are property at best, says Food. Yeah.
Well, I have a first class ticket to hell. You gonna join me?
I'll probably beat you there with the way I smoke.
That's true. The devil already got your lungs.
Yeah, so Werewolf, what do you if you didn't have the Mystery Science Theater version to watch, what would you rate Werewolf?
Like a 2.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably a 2. But with the Mystery Science Theater,
oh, that makes it up to at least a 5.
Yeah. It's one of their more memorable episodes.
Yeah.
A lot of people tend to quote the werewolf, because her accent is fucking terrible.
Yeah, what is that accent?
Yeah, I don't know. She's from some European place. Hippity hoppity, roll off my property. This is Porky.
That's beautiful. Thank
you.
No
love for the 1942 cat people? Well, they're not werewolves.
That's not werewolf.
They're cat people. Yep. I mean, we could talk about, what is it, Sleepwalkers.
Oh, God, no.
Where they're were-cats.
No,
it's one of the worst movies ever, but has to break the record for the most horror cameos in one film.
Yeah, what I was going to say is with Silver Bullet, we don't really have to talk over the whole thing, but was that pre or post Gary Busey accident?
I think it's pre.
Oh, that's a shame.
I believe it's pre-Gary Busey accident.
I mean, you can't even save it.
I believe just a couple years after that, he probably would have his accident.
Yeah.
If I have to remember correctly. Rock says, cripples have so many uses, though. Doorstops, table legs, dartboards, knife blocks. This brings up a good point. What's that one movie with Benicio del Toro? It had some great kills. The Wolfman?
I guess.
Talking about The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro? The remake of the original Wolfman, which I heard is pretty good, but I mean, it's all CGI.
Yeah.
I was just... in Cursed, the werewolves are very CGI. That's the thing I forgot to bring up, is that sometimes it might be practical effects, a guy in a suit, but sometimes it's definitely a CGI werewolf. Mm-hmm. Not very good.
No.
They went the lazy route with it. Crippled people can become crippled masters. That's true. We didn't get a chance to talk about that on the Kung Fu stream, but I definitely should have showed some video of the crippled masters. And Anthony Hopkins was in the remake. You're right, Groom, chewing up every square inch of scenery. You're not wrong. I think they were really trying. They were like, this is going to be just as good as the original. We're remaking a classic, and we're going to do it the right way. And they did it the wrong way. But I've heard that people do like it. I've heard it's underrated. But I just can't see myself watching it. The Wolfman was practical, just not the whole transformation. When he's the werewolf, like his face isn't CGI or anything? Because I swear I remember some of his face being CGI, but I could be wrong, Rock. I think just the part of the transformation that people remember is the CGI part. God. I think when his face is changing.
Sorry, I'm remembering more stuff. So, again, the whole thing with werewolves as stock characters. Have you ever seen Werewolves on Wheels?
Yes, I have, actually. It's about a biker gang of werewolves that are actually... Rick Baker did the makeup. Okay, I see. Maybe I'll give that movie a second watch then.
What movie have a second watch?
The Wolfman remake with Benicio del Toro.
Mm.
So Werewolf on Wheels is about a biker group of satanic werewolves.
Yes.
It's a boring film, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
The cover is very cool, and the ending isn't bad. But the rest of the film is fucking terrible.
Yes, it is.
It's very boring. It's very 70s.
But, did you ever see Cry of the Banshee?
No, I don't think so.
It's a Vincent Price film, and it's about a number of monsters that are in it. A banshee is one of them. A wolf man is another, and I think a vampire is another.
Not enough banshee monsters.
No.
I think you could do a good thing with the band, the way it wails at night and stuff like that.
Oh, I know what else we forgot to mention, actually. Dog Soldier.
Dog Soldiers, yes. Okay, so Dog Soldiers is very weird because it's a sci-fi movie, but it's actually very competent.
Yeah.
And the werewolves are done very well. The effects are done very well. The kills are done very well. It's basically about a group of like reject mercenaries or people that they're in some kind of camp training for something, but they're all technically rejects somehow, I believe. And they basically get attacked by werewolves, and they end up sheltering in a house with a woman who's like a doctor. But spoilers, she turns out to be the head of the werewolves.
Yes.
And it's her time of the month.
Oh, okay. Of course it is.
Yeah, we read that Anya Stanley article about dog soldiers and how it's feminine. It's feminist as fuck.
Of course it is.
British Army. That's right, Hawk. Thank you.
Oh, also.
But aren't they supposed to be some sort of like... They're supposed to be some kind of rejects from the British Army. Not that they're no longer part of the army, but that they sort of washed out of where they are, and they have to go on this training camping thing for punishment or something, I think.
Oh, another one too, Jenova. It's Ginger Snaps.
Ginger Snaps is very good. It's a girl that becomes a werewolf. The effects are good. It's actually a good story. I believe it's Canadian as well.
I believe so.
Yeah. I want Blade 4. Blade takes on werewolves. I'd watch that. You brought up Underworld 2 Strog. Underworld, I believe some of the werewolves in Underworld are actually guys in suits as well. Because I think I remember seeing some behind the scenes footage of them, and they were actually learning to walk on the stilts that they used for that movie. The first Underworld is not bad. The CGI is used well, you know. Banshees are only scary because they come out before the Dullahan, which is one of the most fucked up monsters in lore.
The Dahalon. That is the Headless Horseman.
Oh.
Technically, it's a...
Christopher Walken.
Yeah, basically. Dahalons are what the basis for the Headless Horseman actually is. It's German folklore and Scottish folklore.
Because I thought the whole thing about Banshees was that they come, like, their crying signifies a death in the family that's coming.
It does.
Okay. But your death comes at the hand of the Headless Horseman.
The Dahalons are usually ones that are creatures that also come with Banshees. They're cursed beings. Both are cursed beings.
So they don't ride horses.
They do ride horses. Dahalons do ride horses. Ghostly specter horses. But the Dahalons are headless, or they carry their heads.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yep.
But yes, Ginger Snaps. What did you mention before that? Dog Soldiers.
Yes.
Dog Soldiers and Ginger Snaps, both very good films. I think I would watch Ginger Snaps and Dog Soldiers before I'd watch An American Werewolf in London or The Howling, honestly. I don't know if they're necessarily better shot films because both films have a better director,
as a double
obviously.
feature, I would have The Howling first and then have Dog Soldiers.
Dog Soldiers or The Howling, then Dog Soldiers, or would you end it with The Howling?
I would end it with Dog Soldiers, actually.
Okay.
Start with The Howling.
I could do a Bad Moon Howling double feature. I wouldn't have a problem with that at all.
We're late phases in The Howling too. I really like that film as well.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch late phases because now that we're talking, because since we've been talking about it, I'm like, I remember that film being actually very damn good. Thoughts on the Wolfen? Now the Wolfen is like actual, like somebody turns into a wolf and kills people. I think I saw that movie one time. I think it's from the 70s.
Yeah, I believe so.
70s, maybe early 80s, maybe.
Yep.
I think
I didn't mention that either. The Company of Wolves, which I actually watched.
Which is another. I mean, I've said how I feel about four-legged wolves as a werewolf. I think it's lazy. Yeah. But I think in Wolfen, it's more than that, though. I think in Wolfen, they clarify that I think Wolfen clarifies that it's not a werewolf necessarily.
It's a lycanthrope.
It's something.
Because that's usually the thing they call it. Instead, they call it like a lichen or something else. Like there's another terminology for it.
It's related to it somehow, but I think they clarify that it's not necessarily a werewolf because Wolfen is basically the curse, or instead of calling it a werewolf, it's called a wolfen, I believe, is how it works. So I think they can get away with it because they clarify how their lore works for them. But I have not seen it in a very long time. I think I saw it when I was a kid, basically. I picked it up at the Blockbuster, rented it from a video store. I think I might have saw it one time after that on television. I know there's, I think a couple gets killed in a park by a pack of wolfen, but I also believe I can't remember what one of Cindy, you might know better than me, but I think the wolfen has, its eyes will glow, and then that's some kind of I don't know, psychic link or something. I can't remember. It does something like that, I believe.
I see.
It's been a while. The Company of Wolves, like we said, it's got Angela Lansbury in it. But that guy also turns into he turns into an actual wolf. And that I just can't take that as a werewolf. The closest thing I could take to that as a werewolf is Hemlock Grove. I may have mentioned that earlier.
I think
Hemlock Grove is an Eli Roth thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really not that good. But the werewolf that they have in there's a scene where it's almost like a wolf from...
Do you find it... I'll say this, though, with Company of Wolves before we move on from it. Do you find it interesting, though, when the wolves are killed? Actually, it does have a really good transformation scene, now that I remember it, where the guy basically rips his flesh off and then turns into the wolf.
Transformation scene is fine. I have no problem with because then the snout comes through his mouth. Basically rips his mouth open. Not
that one. This is the other one, too, and the grandmother's telling the story, and the guy rips his flesh off and literally turns into a wolf, too. That's a really good scene.
The transformations I have no problem with. It's the
wolf creature.
The end result of the transformation, the wolf.
Which are all huskies, by the way. Those aren't really wolves.
Right. Well, aren't huskies sort of like a wolf dog?
Yeah, they are.
They're their own. Because then what do you got? You got Mammut or whatever they're called.
Marmots.
Yeah. Which are like bigger huskies.
Yes. I had a husky.
Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. That's a good movie. It's got a werewolf.
But what I was going to say is the fact that when the wolves are killed, or you ever see anything happen to the wolves, they revert back to humans. They keep human hands, human heads. That's a really interesting concept, I think, for something that you usually don't see.
You do that. They do that in American Werewolf in London. They do that in Cursed. I thought they always did that, though. Once the werewolf is killed, the person reverts back to a human.
Yeah, late phases too, with you see those partial transformations and the ones that are
right. I think they do that in The Howling too. She chops off his arm.
But I like how the fact it's like almost instantly, like as soon as the body drops, it's like instantly they're back to being a human instead of like a slower process like you would expect.
Yeah, maybe because they're dead now.
Yeah, maybe.
And it doesn't have to work it doesn't have to work with so much now that you're dead. Because like in The Howling, when she gets trapped in the barn, she cuts off one of the werewolf's arms. And then there is a little bit of a longer process of the arm changing back to a human hand. And it's really gross. But they do have like a little bit of like a 15-20 second process instead of it just sort of like
instantly happening.
Yeah, fading into a human. And then of course, like when you get like what's it called? Monster Squad, when they blow up Wolfman in there, they actually show the pieces all coming back together, sort of like T2. And he forms back into a werewolf, not a man. So he actually doesn't change when he dies. I guess he really didn't die, right?
No, he didn't technically die.
Right, because you can only kill him with silver bullets.
Yeah, or with silver bullets. Even though that was something I have a problem with the Company of Wolves is they don't use silver, they just use whatever and it kills them. They're really weak werewolves.
Yeah, there's some things that do that. They do that in Bad Moon too.
Yeah, that's right, because he just shoots that werewolf in
He
the
just
head.
shoots the werewolf with a dog, kills the wolf. Like, there's no silver involved in any way in there at all.
Yeah.
What do you make of the serial killer origin of the werewolf legend? Gene, you might know more about that.
That's based on the thing about a guy being apparently crazy and saying that I think he actually had rabies was the thing. And he said he like made a pact with the devil in the woods, and when he ever wore this like furred belt, he turned into a werewolf.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the whole big thing, and then they like hung him because he was insane. Obviously, he had rabies. That was the actual thing. That's the correlation for the werewolf legend. But there are other things in other cultures that have passed down through traditions. Like in the Native American culture, there's something too about like wolf men that aren't skinwalkers either.
There's, I believe in Germany somewhere, there was a family that was persecuted for being werewolves. They thought that they were werewolves. In Germany, do you know what the name of that family is called?
No, off the top of my head, no.
It's called Drumpf. It's the Drumpf family. The Drumpf family was persecuted in Germany as being werewolves, and they were executed for lycanthropy. Lycanthropy. They were prosecuted and executed for being werewolves, and their name was Drumpf, which is Donald Trump's German name. It's just something I happened across one day. I think you can look it up on Wikipedia. That's where I found it.
I'm sure I could. I just find it really funny that they were persecuted for that. So more than likely, the family was suffering from rabies or something. Because you have to imagine rabies is common, especially when you are that kind of.
But also, werewolf was the first witch.
Yes.
So you would accuse somebody of being a werewolf, not a witch.
Yes.
And werewolves were burned, I believe.
Yes. Fire is obviously the all cleanser.
Burned and beheaded, I think.
Yeah, because they had to have their head cut off because they could come back.
Right. Yeah.
So they're it's a vampire thing gone into that too, where they're like they still revive the heads alive, and you use that method.
Do you like the song "Werewolves of London"? Ah, woo! Werewolves of London.
I do actually like that song.
That's not a bad song. Cindy says the wolfen are descended from wolves. Supposed to be really smart. It does create its own lore. Albert Finney is a cop chasing them down. I see. So that's why I was able to. That's why I remember there being a pack in the woods or in the park that kills like a couple.
Oof.
But I know that when people talk about werewolf movies, wolfen usually is like it's always to the side with an asterisk, and people will talk about it as though it's a werewolf movie, but they also try and say that it's arguable that it could not be a werewolf movie as well.
You know what's actually I still hate this though. I hate the fact that American Werewolf in London usually makes people's top 10 list. I don't think it deserves it.
Well, I think it yeah. I could probably list 10 werewolf movies. If I had a list of werewolf movies, I could probably list 10 that I would rather watch before an American Werewolf in London. But I think American Werewolf in London is sort of, it's one of those things. It made the push because John Landis seems is kind of a sketchy dude, I would say.
You know what's actually really funny though about Werewolf of London, American Werewolf in London? There is an actual movie before that called Werewolf of London. That was way back. It has
Lon Chaney in it.
Yes, it does. It was in 1935.
Yeah, I believe it was lost for a good while. Too.
Yes, it was.
They couldn't have found it because it supposedly was lost in a fire. But I believe they found some sort of copy, and I think now it's more prevalent than it used to be.
Yes.
It's actually quite a good film, if I remember correctly. But that's because Lon Chaney was a great, not only effects guy, but actor as well.
Yeah,
for that
the original
time.
Lon Chaney really outshined his son, even though his son wanted to follow in his father's footsteps. He really was not the same actor.
Yeah, Lon Chaney Jr.
Kind of a dick.
And always plays like this. I think he plays Frankenstein at some point as well in a movie. So he kind of he got into the Universal thing, and that was kind of his where he made his dues and just did his career for the most part. I think he was like an alcoholic or addicted to heroin or something.
No, it was he wasn't addicted to heroin. He was an alcoholic.
That was Bela Lugosi.
Bela Lugosi was addicted to morphine.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I think if you watch Spider Baby with Bela Lugosi, you can really see like that's when he's really on the outs. Mm-hmm. Bela Lugosi is in Spider Baby.
Did you Here's an interesting one I pulled up. I've never heard of this before. So I'll ask if you've seen it before. It's called Blood and Chocolate. It's also apparently a werewolf horror movie.
Blood and Chocolate? No, I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just felt like I would ask.
It sounds French.
I think it's American. Let me check. Might be Canadian.
Strog says all gypsies are vampires and need the steak. Prove me wrong.
It's a fantasy horror film. Excuse me.
Okay.
It's based on a young adult novel with the same name. It doesn't say where it was made.
Peter Lorre was a lush.
Oh, it says it's set in Romania though.
Yeah, well, that's where a lot of this shit comes from.
Yeah, Romania and Germany.
Because you've got Transylvania, it's Dracula, vampires, shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
What's that movie? Transylvania 5000?
Yeah.
Has that got werewolves in it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I don't remember them because I haven't. I just remembered as we were talking about it. It popped into my head. Oh yes, I think I remember the ending now, where they're trying to turn somebody into a werewolf or something, and they've got them trapped in the basement.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm remembering little bits and pieces here or there. What other werewolf movies are we missing? Chat, Gene. What do? I mean, we didn't. Ginger Snaps is good,
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think we've covered a lot of them, and I think we've gone. To me, it seems like the whole thing starts with American Werewolf in London and The Howling, but we do cover lots of werewolf topics, and like I said, it comes down to the fact that werewolves are a very proto stock character for horror. And they have been for a long time too, but it's just that they weren't as prevalent.
Well, they're ingrained in our culture.
Yes, they're very ingrained in American culture.
That's because there's some sort of lore or myth about them everywhere.
Yes. It's in a lot of cultures too. It's like in every single culture and all over the world.
Yeah.
Something that's werewolf-like or like evil spirit-wise or a curse.
Yeah, and that could. It's the same thing with vampires.
Vampirism is also a curse. Yes.
Right. There's always something like that, but there's something like
with werewolves. It seems like it's a singular thing where it's not like
man becoming a beast, sort of a dog.
Yes.
A wolf.
Something in between both those things where you're both man's best friend and man's worst enemy.
Right. Sleeping nose to anus like you do. That's one of the things they say in Werewolf.
I know. Sleep like a coyote, ass nose to anus.
Are any of these good? Are any of these movies good? Strog says, and then he posts a link. Let me check your link out here, Strog. See what we've got here.
But yes, the whole thing that I think differentiates vampires from werewolves to me is that werewolf seems very singular. Like you always, besides late phases where it becomes more of a plague aspects used for it. But that's just because he becomes desperate and he's like, I need help. But where vampirism to me seems more like it's almost a plague a bit, especially if it, gets into other people start turning into vampires, everything else.
The first movie on this is Strog. We talked a little bit about that in the beginning. It's a German movie about a guy who gets he kind of becomes rabid during the moon, but he doesn't really turn into a werewolf. He's got long hair and a beard and shit, but he doesn't really turn into a werewolf, but he gets powers from the moon. And that's okay. It's not bad. If you're a fan of werewolves, you probably want to check it out. But if you don't really, you're not really missing too much. I haven't seen Roma Santa, the Werewolf Hunt, so I don't know about that. And I haven't seen...
Is that a Spanish movie?
Yeah, Rural Spain.
Okay.
Kibakichi. A lone swordsman wanders the land after seeing his own kind werewolves slaughtered by fearful and violent humans.
No, that's the thing I was telling you about.
No, it's not, because this guy, there's a picture from it and it says werewolf. It's actually got a werewolf.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's based on that story though.
Yeah, this one's called Kibakichi though. It's from 2003.
Yeah, that is based on that manga. That's what that manga was called.
Because they're showing that this actually has a werewolf in it.
Yeah,
and the werewolf actually doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, it's because that's what they couldn't do with Toei because they were cheap bastards.
Howl, a group of strangers on an overnight train ride through rural England. It doesn't look good. They got a picture of the werewolf from all of them, and it doesn't really look that good. But I mean, it might be. Who knows? Big Bad Wolf. I haven't seen that either.
What's the werewolf look like?
Looks kind of it's better than it doesn't look CGI, so I'll give it that. An awkward teen brings some obnoxious friends to his stepdad's cabin, but rather than impress them, he watches as a smack-talking werewolf slaughters them all before his eyes. I mean, if the werewolf's got some good quips, then that might be a fun movie to watch. Big Bad Wolf, 2006. The Beast Must Die from 1974.
Yep,
I've never seen this movie.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it myself.
Tom Newcliffe is a wealthy man with an obsessive love of hunting. He and his wife invite an eclectic group of friends to visit their vast estate for a weekend of drinking and chatter, but he soon reveals his true intention. He believes one of them to be a werewolf, and he's going to kill the beast before the weekend's over. So it's almost like
Most Dangerous Game.
Most Dangerous Game, right? Yeah, I've only seen one of those movies, Strug, so I can't tell you if they're good or not. But I kind of want to see Big Bad Wolf from 2006. I'd like to hear a trash-talking werewolf kill some people slasher style. That would be fun. The werewolf looks like it's got practical effects. Blood on the Devil's Claw, werewolf movie or no? I have no idea. Have you ever heard of that one, Gene?
No, I have not.
Let me go to IMDb here and see if I can find it. But does it have a werewolf in it groomed? Is there a wolf in it at all? Who knows? It could be. Blood on the Devil's Claw.
If I remember correctly with Dog Soldiers, by the way, isn't there a really creepy scene in that? Where it's like the werewolves slowly
coming on Satan's Claw?
Where the werewolves coming to get them, but it's way off in the hill. And I get a slow shot of it.
Possibly. I didn't get to watch that movie today, so I don't remember too much about it. But
I just remember the werewolf being huge in Dog Soldier.
I don't see a werewolf. This says it's about satanic ritual, so devil worshippers. So I don't know, Strut. I don't know, Groom. You'd know better than me. The demon is wolfish, so it's like a wolf demon.
Does it count?
I don't know. I mean, the John Landis wanted the werewolf to really be a hound from hell.
He wants a lot of things in his life.
Yeah,
he wanted that plane to go higher, and that killed people.
I don't know if I consider a hound from hell to be a werewolf.
No, that's a hellhound.
I mean, we know how I feel about quadrupedal.
Quadrupedal, yes.
Quadrupedal werewolves. I'm not for that at all. But I mean, it could be. If I had watched it, I would know. There's a lot of things I didn't get to watch. My fucking power went out.
If only the plane went high enough to hit John Landis with the blades.
It should have been him instead of Vic Morrow.
And the two kids, yeah.
Yeah, and those poor kids. And then I wonder if, I know Steven Spielberg isn't his friend anymore, but I wonder if he talks to Joe Dante anymore.
Probably
Joe
not.
Dante's name is now forever associated with John Landis's mistakes.
Yeah.
Hairy patches grow on the victims. They're killed, and the patches are cut off to give the demon its body. Okay. I mean, that you could see that as a different type of werewolf transformation. I wouldn't. I could see how you could work that into being a sort of unique take on the werewolf genre itself, where the werewolf gets its body from its victims instead of actually just it being inside of it, or there being some sort of physical transformation through your own body.
Yeah, I get that. Sorry, I didn't mean to pause. I was just looking at something.
Blues Brothers is all right. Strog, yeah, it's not bad.
That's not a werewolf movie.
No, but he said Landis is a cad, but Blues Brothers is good.
Yeah,
Or
I mean
maybe
there
it's
are
pronounced
there are
cod.
movies that there are movies that Landis makes that aren't awful, but I just fucking hate Landis as a person and his whole outlook.
I think he's
filming.
I think he's a bad person. Yeah. From what I got from listening to Joe Dante and Rick Baker and some other people talk about The Howling and American Werewolf and the way the practical effects were handled between the two films, it really seems like John Landis stomped his feet and sort of guilt tripped Rick into doing this and leaving the Howling production.
Could you imagine that, though? Can you imagine being Rick Baker and then having to go do this stuff for Landis, and you said you took like months to make this thing, and you like 15 seconds and that's it?
Yep. And it almost seems like it was John Landis still pouting. Like he wasn't over the fact that his friend left. And it's almost like he filmed as little as he needed just to be like, yep, I made you work all that. Yeah, you see what happens?
What a dick.
Yeah. I mean, there could be, who knows? It just seems, the more I learn about John Landis, the less I like him. And I think Max Landis is a real dweeb too.
Yeah, he seems to be.
Yeah. Chronicle is good, but again, Max Landis as a person, not so much.
Yeah, because he's got his dad's shitty fucking mentality. Who's he gonna kill?
His career.
I mean, if he has like a Twilight Zone thing like his dad did.
I could see him, history repeats itself, so I could see him making the same mistakes his dad made.
Who's he gonna lose friendship with? J.J. Abrams as Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, for real. I could see that 100%.
Oh, I don't want to know the character actor that's gonna die if that's the case.
Well, we've got about 10 minutes here. So, Gene, top 3 werewolf movies.
Top 3 werewolf movies are the ones I watched. I'll put The Howling at number 3 because I just love that film.
Okay, I think that's where The Howling's going for me too.
Okay, because it still is a very gritty atmosphere. It's very dark. I definitely like the take on it, especially the whole idea of almost like a werewolf secret society thing too, that they are just always a part of society.
Yeah, I like that. It's very gritty and dark, and I want my werewolf movies to be more like that than be like American Werewolf in London.
Yeah. I'll say for my number 2, I will say Late Phases.
Okay.
Because I really just love how that whole thing is. I love the idea of like a Clint Eastwood style character fighting werewolves.
Right, okay.
Especially the idea that the werewolves are older, so they're not like, prime werewolves. Where they be like, killing everybody else and everything else like that.
Yeah.
And for the top werewolf movie that I watched, well, at least I know of, I guess, too, is I'd say Dog Soldiers.
Dog Soldiers number 1.
Yep.
Okay. For me, my number 1 is going to have to be Bad Moon. I like the practical effects. I like the kills. The transformation for a couple seconds is weak to the point where I remember it vividly.
Mm.
But for the most part, they do a great job. Everything stays real simple.
What was your number 2? Was it Last Rites as well?
No, number 2 is either gonna be Dog Soldiers or Teen Wolf. I really like Teen Wolf. I think it's a better comedy, a werewolf comedy, than American Werewolf in London is. Now you don't get any kills, and it's not really horror as much as it's sort of like a boner comedy,
Yeah.
But
do you think it's because you think it's a remake of Full Moon High, but a better remake of it?
I think it's a better remake of Full Moon High. I just like a lot of stuff about it. I like Michael J. Fox. I wish he was still acting.
I wish he was still alive. Yeah.
He's not dead.
Yes, he is.
No, he is not. Michael J. Fox is not dead.
Yes, he is.
Oh, okay. We're gonna check it out right now.
He had Parkinson's disease.
He's still alive. He just did a show like a year and a half ago. Remember when they brought him back to television?
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, I know you thought he was dead. That's why we're having this argument right now.
Jesus, how many dead people keep
He's
coming back?
He's still alive. He's 57.
Oh.
I think it's because he sank 99% of all his money into Parkinson's research because he just doesn't want to shake anymore.
Yeah. I thought he was dead, literally.
No, just his career.
Okay. Well, I guess that's good.
I guess there are worse things than body death in Hollywood.
Parkinson's is definitely not a very fun disease at all.
Oh, definitely not. I think he helped come up. I think he basically helped fund the research for the new shit he's taking now, which is supposed to cut it down a lot.
Mm.
So, but it's between Teen Wolf and Dog Soldiers for number 2 for me. I think it all depends on what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for like a horror sort of action film, I'm going to go with Dog Soldiers. But if I'm looking for a more like comedy that you don't like, it's got some fun moments in it, then I'm going to go with Teen Wolf.
Gotcha.
But definitely number 1 for me is Bad Moon. I just like what they do with the werewolf, and not just with the werewolf, but it's the way the lore works for it, the way it sort of becomes a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing with the guy, and it shows you the effects on you as a person as well, and how that changes you, and you're sort of the more you become a wolf, the less of a human you are every time you turn back, sort of thing.
But don't you think it goes a little bit against the sacrilege of the idea that wolves should be killed with silver bullets?
A little bit, yeah. But the way it's done, because everything else around that is so good, I don't really.
The one CGI I've seen that's really jarring.
Right. I don't mind that a werewolf can just be exploded with a shotgun, and that's good enough. Because if we're going like Monster Squad rules, then that's a problem. Mm-hmm. But because it introduces that almost instantly in the movie in the very first scene. It shows you this is how werewolves can die. It can go any fucking way we want it to.
Because John Landis says if you come up with anything, it don't matter.
Yeah, he's not wrong. Werewolves don't fucking exist, so we can kill them any way we want.
Well, what if they do?
They don't, but.
What if they do? Next time on Gallery of the Unknown.
No, you guys still got to do your MK Ultra.
I know.
So yeah, Bad Moon, and then my second spot is tied, and then third is probably The Howling. I really enjoy what The Howling does in a lot of places. Like I said, the ending is very cool, and the whole thing with the bad guy when he traps her in the room is very menacing and dark. And I really like a lot of that shit. The thing I was noticing is that, I thought I was going to go into American Werewolf in London, and I thought I was going to have like a better time than I did when I watched The Howling. But when I went into an American Werewolf in London, I found myself a little bored.
Yep.
And I know I had seen the movie before, but everything felt very predictable.
Yeah.
And when I had listened to some other people talk about it in reviews and the way they talk about it and how the movie is supposed to be seen, I did not get that feeling ever. Even from the first time I watched the movie, I never got these feelings that these people were talking about. And I understand why that movie is held in high regard because of the transformation scene.
And but that's it.
The Howling did everything first.
Yep.
That's really it. Howling did it first. It just didn't do it in full lighting.
Yep. Which is fine. It looks better not in full lighting.
It's fine too. And the lighting is used to tell a story. To tell a story and to give it a more menacing look, and obviously to hide things that don't look good. Mm-hmm. But that's just sort of a part of why you do lighting like that. Yeah. But I think it's because American Werewolf in London does everything in full lighting that it gets this big praise for it. Congratulations. Rick Baker deserves his award, but Bottin might deserve an award as well.
Yeah.
But the effects that he does in The Thing are a lot better than the effects he does in The Howling.
Yeah, it's because he had time to
100%.
work for
Right, yeah.
everything else.
And I think when John Landis stomped his feet and he basically forced Rick Baker to quit, I think that kind of fucked up the flow of the makeup department, the effects department, because then they had to scramble and change things around and get stuff going. So
Joe still definitely did love making the movie, though.
John Landis kind of sabotaged
The Howling. Yes, he did.
Right. When you're watching that transformation scene, all I could think of was this transformation scene isn't what it should be, because John Landis came in and sabotaged this movie.
Yes.
Because he's a little baby boy.
Yes, he is.
But we got 2 minutes left. So I mean, we'll do another one of these on vampires, because there's definitely some vampires I want to talk.
They'll be coming in a couple of weeks,
like Near Dark and stuff like that.
Yep.
Which I love. But at this moment, I might say that there are more. I prefer werewolf movies to vampire movies, but there are more vampire movies that I would prefer to watch over werewolf movies.
Yeah.
I would prefer to watch John Carpenter's Vampire than any werewolf movie I've mentioned today. I would prefer to watch Near Dark than any werewolf movie I've mentioned today.
I don't know. It depends on some of those vampire movies. Near Dark, yeah, I'd say that has a similar kind of vibe that The Howling does, honestly.
I would prefer to watch Dusk Till Dawn.
I don't know if I'd prefer to watch Dusk Till Dawn over The Howling.
I would prefer Dusk Till Dawn over The Howling. I would prefer...
Even though it's got George Clooney in it, Jenova?
Yeah, I can deal with it.
Can you?
Modern vampire movies all have the gay. Yeah, they definitely do, Groomed. So yeah, let's crash this plane.
I'm gonna shit like I always do.
No, we're not doing that. All right, guys.
Nope,
later.
I am.
Okay, go ahead.
So we are going to be doing banner rants tomorrow, as long as nobody explodes or anything else. Okay. And we should be doing it about knives, I believe.
Knives at 9.
Yeah, knives at
8. Knives at 8.
Yeah, it's 8. That's
okay,
right.
Sorry.
And we will be back here on Heretic Channel on Wednesday talking about full moon films.
Oh, yes. Full moon. I'll be discussing Evil Bong.
Yeah, I know you will.
And Ginger Dead Man. Yep. And the crossovers.
And I'll be talking about Charles Band in general, with everything else he's made.
Charles Band, yeah, we'll probably be. I'm definitely going to bring up Demonic Toys. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's called Doll Man. Trancer. I believe they did Trancer as well.
He did fund a Reanimator, the first one.
But those aren't Full Moon movies.
No, those are Empire.
Right. We should stick with Full Moon.
Well, I'm talking about Charles Band in general.
We'll talk about his history, but we should stick with Full Moon, sort of.
Yeah.
Like Puppet Master and shit like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just talk about a few things. It's just Charles Band in general. He's the one behind Full Moon Productions.
Totally, yes. 100%.
But he had plenty of productions before.
Right. He did From Beyond, Reanimator.
That's all under Empire. Yes.
A bunch of shit. Right. Charles Band said, "I want to make a movie," and then he did. He made all movies. All the movies. Charles Band made them all.
Yep. I will talk about his actual production company he did in the 70s, because it's interesting, called Charles Band Productions.
He's like Jason Blum before Jason Blum. He's like Full Moon and Charles Band. They're like the original Blumhouse.
Yep. Except they make really good films. I love Full Moon films.
You dudes kept me from massacring my customers. Thanks for keeping me out of prison. You're welcome, Grimt. But eventually, with the way you are, you will eventually end up back in prison. You will fucking, your parole officer won't be happy with you, I bet.
Especially if it's a wolf cop.
Yeah, you'll do something. We know you. You're one bad customer away from burying the body out back. But thanks everybody for coming out tonight. Sorry about the beginning of the first half hour of this show with the OBS and everything like that. But it's a process. I'll figure it out eventually. It'll be like, nobody will ever remember when I was terrible with OBS.
Well, if you delete it, no one's going to remember it.
Oh, I'll probably delete it just because it won't go with the show. I'm going to listen back to it to see what it sounds like, but it was a mess getting everybody everywhere and having these different things going. It was stupid. I was such a boomer. It's terrible.
Yep.
But thanks, guys. Like I said, Banner Rants tomorrow, Knives at 8.
Yep.
And we will be back on Wednesday with Full Moon. And we'll see you guys later. Thanks for coming out.
Peace,
Bye.
chat.